Okay, I'm going to call to order this regular City Commission meeting of Monday, June 15th. All please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. We begin, as always, by acknowledging the land on which we gather is the territory of the Ottawa and Chippewa peoples who have stewarded this land throughout the generations. Thank you for your strength and resilience in protecting this land and inspiring us to uphold our responsibilities to do the same. With that, we will go ahead and start with our roll call. We have Rebecca as our city clerk tonight.
Commissioner Treadwell,
Here.
Commissioner Anderson,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Ness,
Here.
Commissioner Shaw,
Here.
Commissioner Bomer,
Here.
Commissioner Funk,
Here.
Mayor.
Here. And we'll move on to announcements from the city manager, please.
Just that I'm happy Rebecca's with us tonight. That's all that I've got. Thank you.
Okay. Any announcements from the city clerk?
I do. The Complete Streets Advisory Committee will meet Tuesday, June 16th at 8:30 p.m. in the committee room. The Development Area Citizens Council will meet on Wednesday, June 17th at 6 p.m. in the commission chambers. The Brown Bridge Advisory Committee will meet Thursday, June 18th at 5 at the Brown Bridge Quiet Area. And the Downtown Development Authority will meet on Friday, June 19th at 9 a.m. in the commission chambers.
Thank you so much. And then before we get on to our consent calendar, we do have a proclamation today honoring 100 years of Cherry Festival. So if I could have everybody meet me up at the podium there, please. So I knew Kat, I wouldn't even try to match her with any kind of Cherry Festival paraphernalia. She'll always outdo anybody.
Even the shoes.
I know, that's always. Yeah, they're logoed. Oh, they're logoed. Oh, nice. Is that going to be available for purchase?
I mean, no.
Okay, never mind. So with that, we'll do the 100th celebration of National Cherry Festival. Whereas the cherry industry stands as a cornerstone of Traverse City Region's agricultural history and economy, with Northwest Michigan proudly producing a significant portion of the United States tart cherries. And whereas the area's unique climate, microclimates, regulated by Lake Michigan, fertile soils, and generations of dedicated family orchards have rightfully earned Traverse City the globally recognized title as Cherry Capital of the World. And whereas cherries have deeply shaped the culture, landscape, and identity of the region for more than a century, providing critical support to local farms, processors, agro-tourism, and independent businesses while continually attracting global admiration. And whereas originating as the humble Blessing of the Blossoms celebration in the 1920s, this regional gathering has grown exponentially into one of the Midwest's premier festivals, honoring the tireless growers, families, and businesses that sustain the vibrant cherry industry. And whereas honoring its historic 100th celebration in 2026, the National Cherry Festival now welcomes more than 500,000 visitors annually, fostering community pride and joy through majestic parades, spectacular air shows, concerts, and deeply rooted local traditions. And whereas the enduring collaborative partnership between the cherry industry and the National Cherry Festival beautifully highlights the resilience, innovation, and community spirit that have made Traverse City a nationally recognized destination and an agricultural leader for generations. Now, therefore, be it resolved that we proudly celebrate the centennial celebration of the National Cherry Festival. We call upon all our citizens and visitors to join in honoring our rich agricultural legacy, celebrating our local farmers, and preserving this magnificent tradition from the next 100 years to come. Thank you for that. And I'll give that to you. So there's that. And I'll let you say a few words then. I know you always like the opportunity to talk about cherries.
Thank you, Mayor Shamro. Thank you. I don't even know what to say. It is the first time we've heard a recognition or proclamation for the 100th anniversary, so we're very excited. We are honored. It is my 36th National Cherry Festival personally, 10 years as executive director. This is an honor and a privilege, so thank you for continuing to let us celebrate cherries in the beautiful town the way you do. Thank you again.
Wait a minute while I fire my computer back up here. So with that, we will now have Rebecca take the consent calendar, please.
The purpose of the consent calendar is to expedite business by grouping non-controversial items together to be dealt with by one commission motion without discussion. Any member of the commission, staff, or the public may ask that any item on the consent calendar be removed therefrom and placed elsewhere on the agenda for individual consideration by the commission, and such requests will be automatically respected. If an item is not removed from the consent calendar, the action noted in parentheses on the agenda is approved by a single commission action adopting the consent calendar. 1, consideration of approving the minutes of June 1st, 2026 and June 15th, 2026, meeting of the City Commission. Approval recommended. 2, consideration of authorizing a purchase order for the replacement of body-worn cameras and related equipment for use by the police department. Approval recommended. 3, consideration of authorizing an amendment to the reimbursement agreement for the city to reimburse Traverse City Light and Power for the city's costs associated with advanced metering infrastructure. Approval recommended. Number 4, consideration of authorizing an amendment to the amended and restated agreement for resource management services with the Grand Traverse Conservation District, and an amendment to the related lease for services at Brown Bridge. Approval recommended. Number 5, consideration of authorizing an amendment to the agreement for the design, engineering, and construction management of the project in connection with the rooftop solar PV and battery storage project at the wastewater treatment plant. Approval recommended. Number 6, consideration of authorizing an annual amendment to the contract for the maintenance, operation, and management of the wastewater treatment plant and associated sewer pump stations, which formally outlines the cost of the period of July 1st, 2026 to June 30th, 2027, as it relates to the previous authorized 10-year agreement. Approval recommended. 7, consideration of authorizing a 3-year agreement for ongoing technical assistance for the city's Community Development Block Grant Entitlement Program. Approval recommended. Number 8, consideration of approving the comprehensive liability and property insurance program as recommended by the city clerk for fiscal year 2026-2027, and approving the associated payments. Approval recommended. Number 9, consideration of authorizing a memorandum of understanding with Up North Disc Golf Association for the enhancement and maintenance of city disc golf facilities. Approval recommended. 10, consideration of authorizing the city treasurer, finance director to write off uncollectible water and sewer utility balances in the amount of $2,089.45. Approval recommended. Number 11, consideration of authorizing an amendment to the intergovernmental agreement with the Grand Traverse County for its management of the senior center to articulate janitorial services. Approval recommended. Number 12, consideration of scheduling a public hearing regarding the Parks and Recreation 5-year master plan for July 6, 2026. Approval recommended. 13, consideration of authorizing an easement request and subsequent maintenance for the gas meter at 211 West Grandview Parkway to Marriott Tribute. Approval recommended. 14, consideration of authorizing an agreement for ethics ordinance, arbiter services associated with complaints involving any city official or employee except the city attorney, with the arbiter recommended by the city attorney as required by the city's ethics ordinance. Approval recommended.
Would any commissioner like any item pulled from the consent calendar? Jackie?
Number 9, please.
Okay. Any others? Mitch?
Number 10.
Okay. Any others? Would any member of the public like to pull any item other than number 9 or 10 from the consent calendar? Seeing none, I'll bring back to the commission for a motion.
I make a motion to accept the consent calendar as amended.
Support.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. All right, we'll start with item number 9 here, the disc golf, and you had that pulled, Jackie?
I did, and let me start by saying how grateful we all are for the community organizations like this who support making our facilities a more used and more enjoyed asset. But I am a little uncomfortable approving a 3-year memorandum of understanding that I have not had a chance to read. And maybe I missed it. Maybe it was attached. No?
No.
Okay.
I don't know if you happen to be able to see the memo that Ariane sent out on my behalf with answers to commission question answers. It came out a little late today, but basically, it's the concept is outlined in the memo, and the MOU is in draft form. We don't typically include a lot of agreements in the packet, but I respect if you're not comfortable seeing all the words.
I understand there are lots of organizations that do this at different facilities, and I'm sure each of them has their own little tweaks and uniquenesses. So I guess I should abstain if everyone else is comfortable with that, but I just would really have preferred to have seen the MOU.
Understood. Just from a charter perspective, commissioners have to vote unless you've got a conflict of
Yes.
interest.
Oh, okay.
So
All right.
abstention isn't an option.
Thank you.
Yep.
Are there any other questions or a motion?
Let's see here.
Go ahead, Lance.
I move that the mayor and city clerk be authorized to execute the memorandum of understanding with the Up North Disc Golf Association to support maintenance and enhancement of city disc golf facilities. Such agreement subject as to its substance by the city manager and its form by the city attorney.
Support.
Thank you for that, Lance and Laura. Any discussion on this, further discussion on this? Seeing none, any public comment on this item? Seeing none, I will bring it back. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Treadwell,
Yes.
Commissioner Anderson,
No.
Mayor Pro Tem Ness,
Yes.
Commissioner Shaw,
Yes.
Commissioner Bomer,
Yes.
Commissioner Funk,
Yes.
Mayor.
Yes. Motion passes. And then we had item number 10 pulled. Mitch, you had this one pulled?
Yes. 2 years ago, roughly, this board, or those of us that were still on it, and composition has changed, did pass a resolution affirming that water is a fundamental human right. I see this as bureaucratic and administrative as it is, as a partial reflection of that, yet it is not something that is fully incorporated into city policies for how we do handle rate payments for those people that are low income or otherwise have difficulty paying. I think that we could do better, but I am also cognizant of the fact that with the current protocols in place, uncollectible balances are only $2,000, so it shows that it is a very small portion of our overall ratepayer balance.
Thank you for that. Did you have any other questions or want to
No.
make a motion?
With that, I'll move that the city treasurer / finance director be authorized to write off uncollectible water and sewer utility balances in the amount of $2,089.45 as outlined in the June 3rd, 2026 communication to the city treasurer / finance director.
Thank you for that, Mitch.
Support.
Thank you for that, Ken. Any further discussion on this?
I think this was probably more than just someone who wasn't financially able to pay the bill. There may have been someone moved out and there was no way to send this bill to someone who may have previously lived there. I'm assuming that's probably what
Yeah,
it was.
that's part of it as well.
Yeah. Well, and it's not any one person, so it's a cumulative. so,
Right, yeah. I didn't think it was just one person, but
Yeah. So I was going to ask this, so this is our policy though of uncollectible debts we write off. So to your
Yes,
point,
it is.
Mitch, we could look at more into this, but this is a policy of the city that we do a lot. We had that study session just to refresh other people's memories because you and I were here. There's a lot of work done to collect, so that's why the number is usually very low, but we do understand that things happen. People move, we can't track them down. There's other affordability issues that are there, and so that is something that we could always discuss more, but we do have that as a policy. Go ahead, Heather.
Yeah, didn't the summary say something about this was because of the changes we made to how we collect? That landlords are actually responsible for the utility bills if they're not paid, and this has caused a little bit of
Right.
difficulty, but
That-
not
that's-
much.
Right, not much. I mean, in the grand scheme of tens of millions of dollars of revenue collected, and it's $2,000, I think we're doing really very well.
Absolutely.
It's a fantastic position for the city to be in.
Absolutely. Any public comment on this item? Seeing none, I'll bring it back. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Okay, we'll now move on down to old business, and we'll start with public hearing regarding our budget amendments. So Ben, do you want to kick that off?
Absolutely, thank you. So you have a public hearing, of course, as the mayor just mentioned, regarding this item, and the city treasurer finance director has a memo in your packet outlining the fiscal year end budget amendments, and there's an explanation in there for all of them, and this is required by Michigan law that the city commission approve these budget amendments, and it is my recommendation following the public hearing that you approve them. If you do have detailed questions, we have some folks from our treasury and finance team here.
So again, we'll take questions, but we'll hold the motion until after I open and close the public hearing. Any questions? Got none. All right, great. Then with that, I will open the public hearing on the budget amendments. Do we have anyone who would like to speak to this issue? Going once. Seeing none, I will close the public hearing on the budget amendments, and I will bring it back to the commission.
I can make the motion.
Sure.
I move that the budget amendments as outlined in the June 4th, 2026 communication from the city treasurer finance director be approved.
Support.
You can give it to Jackie.
All right. I was like, who did it last? I'm trying to be fair, so. All right. Motion by Ness, second by Anderson. Any further discussion on this item? Seeing none. Any public comment on this item? Seeing none, I'll bring it back. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, everyone, for that. Now we're right with the world again. All right, now we're going to move to our discussion of the housing tools follow-up. This was a presentation that was done a couple months ago, so Lauren, we'll let you take that.
Sure, thank you, Mayor. We went back actually, and as staff, we reviewed the tape again and tried to capture all the questions that the commission had at the last meeting where we discussed this. And we summarized to the best that we could the answers and the information that we were able to gather, and then discuss also as staff. The city assessor is here. Yeah, she's hiding in the corner. And we talked about the capacity in her office. That was something that the commission was interested in. And then I won't go through all of these questions and answers, but really what we need to know from the commission, if you would like to move forward in light of the information provided, is whether you want to move forward, number one. Number two, whether you want to change the proposed districts, how you want those districts to look. And then number three, you would need to authorize the funding like we talked about last time for the notice. The notice has to go out certified, and that's in the statute, so that's why funding is necessary, and that's the only way it can be done. So unfortunately, that expense is tied to that decision.
And one thing I wanted to bring up that we had talked about both in agenda review and it was part of our discussions when we had this last time was it would be $75,000 to send to the entire city. If we did want to do this, but we wanted to do it with select areas or neighborhoods or districts, we can have all of this discussion today, but if we end up landing on that, we would probably want to bring that back at the July 6th meeting or a close subsequent one so we could have a more accurate cost on what the mailing would be. So I just wanted to kind of frame that if we start getting down the road of wanting to do that, but not the whole city, we would probably just refer that to another business meeting in the near future so we'd have accurate numbers. So with that, I will open the floor for anybody who wants to. Usually I know we have a motion, but because there's some variables in this one, I think we can have some general discussion to get us focused in on what we're looking for first. Any thoughts from anybody? Okay, go ahead, Jackie.
Sure, I'll kick it off. In the terms of context, this sort of brought me back to our density zoning actions that were adopted in 2024 that essentially doubled the options for housing in all of our residential zones. And I believe the uptake on that since then has been very limited. The last number I heard was about 10 building permits pulled since then to take advantage of the opportunity for this gentle infill housing approach. So obviously there are some kind of barriers that we haven't yet addressed to making good use of both enhancing the number of dwelling units, but also preserving the character of our neighborhoods. So my personal interest is much more in the smaller scale of these two options, the one that really addresses 4 units or less, that allows potentially small landlords or individuals to overcome the barriers like uncapping of property values and increased property taxes that might be holding them back from taking advantage of some of the new zoning that was enacted. So I am supportive of that portion of it. It also seems to me that there are existing tools for larger developments like pilots and brownfield funding that we have been taking advantage of, and that perhaps it's time to look at a different segment of our housing inventory. And then I also think that just in terms of, where's the rest of my notes? When you look at the various zones, and to your point about how many, do we want to do it citywide? Do we want to choose a segment? Certainly our residential R1A, R1B, and R2 represent the vast majority of parcels in the city. And that if we were to focus on those with the tool that is especially designed for those areas, I think we might get some positive reaction. So that's where I'm coming out.
Thank you, Jackie. I wanted to ask a clarifying question to Lauren really quickly, though. My understanding was the one that is the higher than 4 it was created because it actually and this is what we hear a lot, is people saying, well, if I redo my small apartment building or something like that, my taxes go up so much that I can't afford to actually keep the rents as low. The pilot and some of the other tools that were mentioned, is there a limit on the size or how those get awarded? Or could a group that has 6 apartments come for a pilot just like anything else?
I can't speak to what the MISTA process is for the LIHTC funding. I don't know how they look at that in terms of number of units. The workforce pilot is much more in the hands of the local unit. So the workforce pilot could be used for any number of units in a project. But I don't know how the LIHTC falls out in terms of if a development with more units gets scored better than a development with fewer units or something like that. LIHTC is very competitive. So those are usually bigger developments. You don't usually see requests for LIHTC pilots for smaller developments, which makes me think that it's probably not as competitive. So.
And just really quick, that goes into, this is more local controlled, what we're talking about here, versus everything that when we give pilots, even though we're voting on them, at the end of the day, MISTA has to approve them and award the funding.
Right, for LIHTC
Yes.
pilots, that's the
Yes.
case, yep.
Sorry, go ahead, Heather.
Thank you.
And then
I'm
Nancy, I
actually
saw yours.
quite concerned about the residential part, because there are so many more residents that we have, and staff's concerns were pretty substantial about how much bandwidth they have to take care of this. There wasn't any real estimate of how much additional time it was going to take for application reviews and annual audits and compliance monitoring, and what would happen if too many applications came in. And I'm also concerned that, it is not our target. Is our target 80 to 100%? Is our target 60 to 80%? But this goes to 120%. So we could be funding, what kind of housing do we really want to fund with our tax dollars? Wait a second, I'm not done
Yeah.
yet. And the fiscal analysis is rather incomplete. If 25 certificates are approved, what is our annual revenue impact? If 50 are approved, if 100 are approved, I'd like to know what the maximum annual tax exposure is if participation exceeds expectations.
We could bring that back if that is part of when we look at slicing it out for that information. I will say part of our previous discussion that isn't, I don't think it was as highlighted in this, was we can set it at what we want, though, for the percentages. We can say 80%, we could say 100%, we could say 70%. We don't have to go up to the 120%.
Oh, I thought in the memo it said we.
It can go up to, but doesn't have to.
okay.
Yeah. And then Lance, you were next, and then Jackie has
I
to.
didn't quite finish
Oh,
yet,
sorry.
though. So just to say, I would be more interested in the other part where where we pick a development area or we pick a corridor and we use the 4 and above units. I think that I would be more interested in that.
Okay, so you're 4 and above. Okay, Lance, you were next.
I just wanted to clarify, because one of your points, Commissioner Shaw, I think 120% is the limit. Is that correct,
Yeah,
Lauren?
that's what's in the statute. So
We can
it's,
do under.
So you could actually say, we're only interested in
80 or
I don't,
below.
I don't think we can, actually,
can't.
because the statute specifies up to 120.
Yeah, that's what
So,
I read in the memo.
yeah.
Okay.
My understanding of the statute was that the governing body selects that number. So I would love clarification on that.
I would
because
too, because when we went to the housing conference in October, they made it sound like you could pick within that.
Yeah,
the
I've
places
heard,
that
I've
were
heard
going
it a
down the
number of
road.
times that
Okay.
you can, that us as a body, we can say, nope, we're going to limit this, cap it at 80% and below,
Okay.
which is something that I would be for in this instance. This is something that is pretty close to me. I talked a lot about it this last summer. The Attainable Housing Facilities Act, it doesn't necessarily provide for like additional units being built, which I think is kind of what you were alluding to, Commissioner Anderson, with the new revamped R2, where you can build the multiple units. But what it does do is it allows our existing mom and pop kind of landlords to not raise rents astronomically and to actually be able to rent out these houses that you have them all over town where people are living in that at an actual affordable rate. And by providing essentially a tax break to them so that they're not paying an astronomical amount of taxes, thus leading into $2,200 plus rents. So I would be a fan of kind of limiting this, not going up to 120% of AMI, but let's say maybe 80% of total AMI and below. And I am a fan of, I kind of like, Commissioner Anderson, your idea of like, let's just do R1 through let's just do the Rs for the attainable housing. And the residential, actually, that's the word referred for the apartments, the 4 plus.
Yeah, that's kind of backwards.
It is kind of backwards in how they wrote that.
Yeah.
And I like that, but I feel like it's people who own the apartment buildings often don't live in our community, whereas people who own the rental houses live right down the street typically from the rental house. And so from a how are we rewarding our residents, our citizens here, that's why I do like the attainable housing. If we were to get pick one to try, that's the one I would want to pick, just because I know that directly will impact a significant amount of, and by significant I mean like a 20 off the top of my head, amount of housing units where we can then actually have people who teach at TCAPS or work in some of our services actually living in the city. Providing just a few more families the ability to live in Traverse City and have their kids walk to school, grow up in town, maybe the parents bike to work, right? It's a significant impact, not just, I think, on families, but also on our environment as well. And so I'm a big fan of this, but I do think I would want to limit it to a lower income than 120%, and then just pick a zoning type. I don't know necessarily of like picking districts per se, because then I feel like we're playing favorites with neighborhoods, and we all represent the entire city broadly, and not just zones or districts. So those are my feelings, my thoughts. on this.
Jackie, I saw your hand. Mitch, I see yours, but Amy Robbins would like to speak, so I'm going to let her speak first on this.
On your 120 AMI, limit, I spoke with the State Tax Commission directly, and that is the statutory limit. We cannot choose something less than that.
Oh, really? Okay.
Now, is that for just attainable housing?
Both housing programs.
Oh, is it?
Yes.
For attainable and residential. So for workforce housing pilots, we can choose less,
Yes.
but I don't know.
What's our policy? I confuse some of them sometimes. Do we have a policy for workforce right now, or is it something we have to opt into?
For
Or is that-
workforce, we have all of our programs set up.
Right, I thought we did.
And
so-
it can go up to 120. The county has said that they will opt out of that program at less than 100, I think,
Okay.
or more than 100, I mean.
Okay.
Sorry, I said
Which
it
is fine.
backwards.
Yeah.
So that's sort of, if we want to have the benefit of the entire program, and not have the county opt out, we would want to set it at 100 for the workforce. But the State Tax Commission has said that we can't set a lower bar for this. So we can double check again, but that came from the Tax Commission.
We're hearing it from a couple of people now that it's 120 for this. So as we're having our discussion moving forward, I guess I would like to hear from everybody too, if that is still palatable then. So Jackie, you were next, and then Mitch.
I was just going to mention, I should have included this in my first comment, but I think from a risk management standpoint and just controlling how much staff time and how much, tax exposure we're talking about, I would be supportive of putting in a cap for the number of applications for the program that was approved, maybe 100 or 50, either numbers like those would limit our exposure and would also be a significant increase from, what's been accomplished already with our gentle infill density zoning.
Thank you for that, yeah. Mitch?
Yes, I can see some benefit to having districts, but we have a very heterogeneous city. R1A and R1B encompass a very large percentage of our residential properties. And I don't want to end up in a situation that Commissioner Bomer suggested of ending up playing favorites with one neighborhood against another. I do see a rather large number at $75,000, and yeah, it can come out to less than that, but that's still a pretty significant expense for something that we are just floating as something that may have no applications. Personally, I would want to remove the zoning categories of I, NMC 1 and 2, and Hospital 1 and 2, but that doesn't reduce the number of overall parcels that much. And frankly, it doesn't have that much of a change in where this could end up. I'm just looking at our map of the city and seeing that industrial zones and areas that already have a separate campus plan seem ill-suited towards this as a development tool.
So let me ask a question before we proceed much further. If this is truly, it's 120 or nothing, is there still an appetite on this commission to pursue this? Let's just yes or no really down the line, and we will continue to have discussion, but I'm seeing certain heads nods and certain ones not, so I just want to hear it so staff can hear it too, please. We'll start with you, Mitch.
Yes.
Work our way down.
Reluctantly, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
No, that's like
Okay.
$110,000 for one
Okay.
person.
For a couple, it'd be
For a couple.
$100,000. So yes.
We need housing variety that's evolved for all income levels, so I'm yes.
Okay, and I'm a yes. So I just wanted to make it clear because there was some surprise and hesitation, so we can continue the conversation, but I didn't want staff or us to be talking, and it turns out 5 of us actually don't want it, and we're kind of going down a road we all don't want to go down. So we can continue the conversation. I just wanted to do a quick check-in with everybody. The one thing I wanted to say is, first of all, I really appreciate Jackie's suggestion. I like the R1A, R1B, that covers our residential versus every district. I think the one thing I would say is we haven't had a lot of takers. I know people who I've been talking to people who are building ADUs and such that we've expanded. It's not cheap. You got to have like $250,000 sitting around to do that right now, to do it in this economy with our workforce. So I wouldn't mind if we end up putting a cap on it. I also don't think that we're going to suddenly find, and this program sunsets by the end of the year. So I really don't know that in the next couple of months, we're going to find a lot of people who are going to be jumping all over this, and we're going to find that there's a ton of extra developments filling in. I'm certainly, again, I don't mind if we put the cap on it, but just for the general public, I don't want this perception that maybe we're approving 50 units are going to suddenly pop up in your alley. That's really not realistic for this. On the hopes that they might renew it or extend it, we could always set that cap so that if it does continue, we've got that in our back pocket, but I just wanted to kind of clarify that as part of our public discussion. So Laura and then Lance.
So I have one question of clarification for Lauren or Amy, and that is with regards to the timing of this. So the actual act is scheduled to sunset at the end of September, is that correct? And
No,
then
it's December 30th of '27 is the last certificate that will be issued by the state. So we'd have to have applications in by October 31st of '27.
Okay, that was different
Okay,
information than we had before, so thank you for that.
So
Amy. That's
that
a good
is
update.
different. So it's a narrow window, but I understood it was going to sunset, the act was going to sunset at the end of September, but now we have to have the completed certificates by the end of December. Is that correct?
December
Or-
2027.
I got that.
You would have to approve any applications to go to the State Tax Commission for their final approval by October 31st of next year, and they won't issue any more certificates after December 30th.
Okay, so
Thank
I
you,
think we have to weigh that really narrow window with the costs. So there's a real cost of the $75,000, and then we complete that process. That's just the public notice, and we complete that process, and we only have a year and a month or 2 months maybe to complete any certificates for these exemptions. Is that correct?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, so I think we have to weigh that. So I see some benefits, some real benefits, and I think there's also some risks. I mean, clearly housing's one of our most urgent community needs. And this is not a perfect tool, but I think it is a tool. And we're at a point where I think it's a good idea to put all the tools we can in our toolbox. I support Commissioner Anderson and Commissioner Shaw's suggestion that we focus on the attainable piece, which is the smaller, the 4 units or less. But I think we have to just be very cognizant of the $75,000, which is an upfront cost, the narrow window, and then the loss of potential tax revenue, which it sounds like it's minor if we don't have a lot of applicants. But then if we don't have a lot of applicants, is it worth the $75,000 and the staff time?
Lance, you were next, and then Ken.
I yield.
Okay, and then really quick, I just wanted to say, just to remind everybody as we're having the conversation about the mailer, if this program gets extended or it's allowed out, this is a one-time mailer, so we don't have to do it every
Right,
time if
yeah.
there's a renewal or, there's a new project after initial waves, we don't have to send it again. So not that we couldn't go smaller and add to it if it ends up being an extended program, but I just wanted to make sure that was out there.
Can
Go
I
ahead,
have my
Lance.
time back?
Yeah, sorry.
Thank-
then Ken.
Sorry. I forgot what I was going to say, and then I remembered. So,
Glad I gave you a second.
Commissioner Anderson, this is just in response to, I think, a very understandable worry that we have like 100 people, 100 of these applications come all at once. If you look at how this is written, there's also the requirement that the owner of the rental property do $5,000 worth of renovations. And so there is a financial component that they have to uphold as well. And I think that right there is going to be a limiting factor on us having just a wave of 100 people just all of a sudden, applying, because that does take some planning. It takes some real work to do. But I think the people who own rental properties who also live in our community, they've talked to me personally, and they're willing to do that work because they know that they can then rent their property out, and eventually that money will come back. But they can do it in a more affordable way or attainable in this case. So I just wanted to bring that up. Sorry, I forgot about it, then I remembered it.
Sure. Ken, go ahead.
The $75,000 was if we were going to send a mailer to every residence, because that was
Every
the
s-
whole
every-
city
Every city,
proposed.
yeah.
I mean, if we're just doing the Rs, R1A, R1B, and R2, that's probably half of that 75,000.
No, it's not. It's a lot.
It's like 85 or 90%.
I'm doing really quick, apparently bad math on this, so, okay.
I
But
think
it
what we-
is less than the 75.
I think what we could do is ask too, if we want this to come back, which I'm kind of hearing, is what would be the cost for all of them? What would be the cost for R1A, R1B, and R2? And then we could maybe even dice that out a little bit more when we see those numbers.
I think we can answer that because
Oh,
the
she's so good
total
with her numbers.
number of bills or notices that would go out was 7,400. So if you assume $10 for each one
Yeah.
on the high side, so 4,900 is the R1A, R1B, and R2, all three together.
Sorry, what was the numbers? There was a
4,900.
4,900, okay.
For all of the Rs.
Yep,
all the Rs.
4,935, sorry. Exactly.
4935.
Yep, so if you multiplied that by 10, you'd be just under $5,000.
50.
50,000.
10
Yes,
cents?
sorry,
10 cents a mailer?
50,000,
Yeah.
yes.
I wish it
Okay.
was
Yeah,
10 cents a
sorry.
mailer.
Yes.
Okay, so we'd be looking at 50K for those.
But that, I was just
yeah,
gonna
go
say, that was my point to the cost of sending the mailer out. It isn't, it's gonna be less than the 75, which is, it's still a lot, but, I liked just doing the Rs with the attainable housing, AHFA, simply because I felt so many people ask for pilots for workforce housing and their organizations, their nonprofits, and their businesses. I'm ready for the residents to have a shake at something like this so that they can get a tax credit abatement to provide housing for people that want to live in the community. So, and there is the investment component of requiring the $5,000. So, I'm incredibly supportive of the attainable tool.
Okay. Is that where everybody's landing, or are people, okay, attainable, the 4 and under? Or Heather, though, you had previously said you wouldn't mind doing both, though, right? Go ahead.
Yeah, I just see giant red flags waving. Why hasn't anybody done this?
It's expensive.
It's expensive, and it takes up a lot of staff time, and we don't even know how much it's going to cost us. Are we even going to recuperate the
49,000.
49,000 that we're spending? And, you know, it says the sunset, possibly this could be that the legislature's going to say, well, let's see how this went, and then they would re-up it, but I don't know, I mean, so I see a better plan is that it's smaller. You choose a smaller portion, you measure the applications, you measure, you know, how many units are created, you measure the tax impacts, and then expand it if it works.
Okay.
Seems less risky to me.
Thank you for
I
that.
mean, big red flags.
Well, I will say, though, to the red flags, there was a presentation about this at the housing conference here in October, and several actually smaller areas like Northport and smaller communities around us were looking at this as a way for people to engage more. So I don't know that the fact that it wasn't jumped on immediately was a red flag by other communities, or if it was more that this is a very new tool that everybody was finding out about, so.
Can I respond to that?
Yes,
I mean,
please.
we're looking at Frankfurt and Northport,
Mm-hmm.
and that was kind of it,
East
right?
Bay.
East Bay, too.
Okay, but all three of those are very different from what we have in Traverse City. That we have a completely different housing situation here in Traverse City. Northport and Frankfurt are both, they have gigantic summer, summer people that come there. They need people to work. They just don't have any housing. They've got zoning issues, NIMBY issues. Frankfurt no, that was Ludington that just turned their entire marina into short-term rentals. East Bay, it's a hotel district with a giant, swamp and farmland. So they've got a lot of room to build there, and they're probably looking for ways to expand housing. And it's just, we here, we don't have enough room. It's expensive to live here. It's a very different housing situation, and it may be a more common housing situation across the state, at least in municipalities that have the time and the money to look at this thing closely. And they're saying, no, thank you.
Jackie, go ahead.
I agree with you that there are lots and lots of unknowns. And, you know, being an early adopter here makes it even scarier. But I do think that using the number of properties that we will certify is a way to limit that risk and to
Putting the
turn
cap
it
on
into
it,
a
you mean.
test drive, put a cap on it. You know, the first 50 or the first 100 come on board, and then we'll see, and then we'll be able to measure. We'll see what those success metrics are, and what kind of uptake and what kind of, you know, essentially tax subsidies we're granting.
Go ahead, Laura.
Lauren, are there any statutory issues with us adopting this and putting a cap on it? Are local governments allowed to say, we'll do this, we'll
Nodding your head.
send public notice for 4,900 people, and yet we're only going to allow 10 certificates a year or 50 certificates a year, whatever the number is? Are there any statutory issues with that?
I don't believe there are.
No,
Okay.
I do know that there is a statement that you're supposed to get when your total abatements reach more than 5% of your taxable value. We're not even close to that.
Okay.
Right, okay.
So,
So we have the
but
flexi-
even then, there's places down by Detroit that have 25% abatements, including IFTs and other types of abatements. So,
Okay.
5%
So we have
is
total,
minimal.
we have total flexibility if we adopt this, do the public notice to the 4,900 our districts, where we could say for maybe the first year, we're going to put a cap of a number, and then we reevaluate it and have a new commission policy for maybe the second year. I guess we only have a year unless it extends. But that makes sense to me, and I think that helps to reduce some of the risks of burdening staff and of taking some time to evaluate how this is working for the community. Commissioner Shaw, what would you think if we did that?
Well, it's.
Well, let's see, before we get into pinning Commissioner Shaw down on anything, we're going to bring this back with some more details and a more of a plan. So I don't want to make Heather commit to something that may or may not be appealing when she sees the final result. I did have a really quick question for Ms. Robbins. I just happened today actually be driving by and saw a duplex for sale. So if somebody bought that duplex today, started putting $5,000 worth of work into it just because they bought it and they're fixing it up, and we pass this in July or something, or you know, whatever it is, there's like a gap basically. They've already been working on it before we pass our ordinance. Are they allowed to still apply for this, or does it have to be fresh and started new after we've approved the tool?
I would have to believe that it
Or
has
if
to be
Lauren
new
knows.
after
Okay.
we approve the tool, because that's the same way it is with all the other abatement
Okay.
programs.
Okay, so after the tool, okay, great. That just was a curiosity point I had. Okay, so really, go ahead, Heather.
Just one more thing, if you're going to bring it back, I wonder if there's any way, there's any evidence that exists that property taxes are a significant barrier to housing construction in Traverse City, because that's what this is all about.
Rentals even too, yeah. So I think so what I just wanted to summarize, just to make sure I'm on page as we ask for this to be brought back, is we're looking at R1A, R1B, R2. We know that would be 50K total. Is everybody comfortable with that, or would you like it broken out between those three still? Everybody likes the whole number? Okay. Then we're looking at just the attainable, so the 4 or fewer. And we'd like to see what kind of like, it sounds like maybe a little bit of information from, if we can, from if anybody else has done this and what they're seeing. And then maybe a little bit of information from staff of what they're anticipating the take rate might be, for lack of a better term. And I personally don't want in-depth analysis because I don't want to wait a month for it to come back to us. But, you know, if they look at the process and kind of can at a glance say, look, this will probably be a couple people here and there, or I've already talked to 20 people and I think this is going to open up a floodgate. Just kind of anecdotal like that, and then bring that back to us. How's the July 6th meeting looking? Is that pretty full right now? I know we've referred a lot of things to it. Okay, let's refer to the July 6th meeting. Go ahead, Jackie.
If I could suggest adding one thing
Sure.
to that, and that would be to address Commissioner Shaw's issue. Could we see one scenario where it compares under current tax tools, what happens to property taxes when you build a backyard cottage, and under this tool, what the difference would be. Would that be helpful?
I think so, but we'd have to look at that too. Are you uncapping part of it from a previously capped, or are you a newer purchase that doesn't have a proposal A protection on it, or what are we looking at?
You know, I would trust Ms. Robbins to
Okay.
create a realistic scenario
Okay.
that would help to illustrate a very common impact.
There, great, that would be great. Anything else that anybody would like to see when it comes back to us? And then we'll have something before us, and then we can potentially take action. As of right now, this is just us doing a little bit more fact-finding. So, anything else? Okay, so we are not going to take a motion on this, but we have, staff feel like we're clear on what we've asked for and what we'd like to bring back. You can always reach out for clarification, but hopefully that summary helped.
Yep.
Wonderful. Okay. Well, thank you for that. Thank you for all the information. You're a wealth of knowledge, Ms. Robbins. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Amy.
And with that, we will now move on to our next item, which is Fish Pass. And we'll have Lauren kick that off.
Okay.
It's her last meeting.
I know.
So, we're on almost on phase 3 of Fish Pass. Phase 1 and 2 were completed by Army Corps of Engineers in partnership with GLFC and the city. Those were all the in-stream things, all the in-stream construction that we've been seeing. Phase 3 is all of the upland out of the river amenities. So more of the parkland type amenities, the kayak slide, the amphitheater, the science building, all the trails, things like that. Because those items are not really Army Corps specialized items like building a dam is, Army Corps is going to step back from the project, and GLFC is contracting directly with the same contractor that did the in-stream, and that just really makes the project more efficient. The reason that this is on your agenda is because the right of entry that the city issued to allow the project to happen on the city's property was issued to the Army Corps. So what we need to have is a new right of entry issued to GLFC so that their contractor, which is Spence, who's been doing the work already, can enter onto the city's property and finish the rest of the upland project. The project has not changed at all. It's the same plans, it's the same footprint, it's the same everything, same contractor. It's just a different entity holding the contract.
And this is still the same budget, correct? Like this doesn't change the budget?
Right, and we're on budget, and we've got representatives of GLFC and the team here, if there are any questions about any of that. But this is really just sort of a formality to streamline the rest of the project to get phase 3 done. And Leah's going to jump up and correct me if I misspeak, but phase 3 should be finishing up a year from August.
See.
Oh, Dan's going to correct me?
Okay.
Okay.
All right, so okay. Go ahead, Lance, and then Heather.
Question.
I was
I
going
was-
to make the
I was
motion.
gonna do the
Okay,
same thing.
perfect. You go ahead.
All right, I move that the mayor and city clerk execute the authorization for entry for construction, which will authorize construction of the Fish Pass project on city property, subject to its approval as to substance by the city manager and as formed by the city attorney.
Support.
There we go. I'm going to give that to Commissioner Shaw, since she was also eager to jump in and make the motion. Okay, with that, any further discussion on this item?
As somebody that has to do a rather inconvenient portage around the construction zone every time I'm paddling the river, as I was doing this morning, I am grateful to see the project getting closer and closer to completion.
Thank you.
Amen.
I think we all are for various reasons. I don't do that, but but I'm excited for it as well for this next phase. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, any public comment on this item? Seeing none, I'll bring it back. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Excellent. Very excited to see that moving on. Okay, next we have the consideration of authorizing the agreement for the construction of the Boardman Ottaway River Pocket Park. And Benjamin, you're going to kick that off?
Yes, and we have our Parks and Recreation Director, Michelle Hunt, here if there's detailed questions, but the City Commission some time back authorized a plan for the development of this pocket park on city property, which is at East Front Street, and really what the item in front of you now is to actually authorize the contract for that work to be completed. The cost of that work will be entirely borne by the private property, the developer, excuse me, we own the property, I should not refer to them as property owner, but the developer, they will cover the full cost. The city had previously, City Commission had previously authorized a funding agreement, which requires that they cover all those costs. We do have a slight amendment to the motion, which when you're ready, Ms. Adler can read, which just incorporates that funding agreement into this approval, just so that it's incorporated by reference. And that's really it for me at this point, unless you've got any questions.
Do you have questions? Go ahead, Heather, and then Mitch.
So the developer's paying for the park, but who pays to maintain this park?
I'll ask Ms. Hunt to speak to that question.
Hello. So the City Parks Department will maintain the park.
Well, I know it's springtime and you're trying to get caught up, but every year I look at our medians at this time of year and our gardens, and I don't see that they are maintained at all. So I again talk about maintenance funding for Parks and Rec, because it's not, the medians along 8th Street, the median on the Parkway, everywhere.
And I do have some reassuring information for you that'll come in my next tidbits regarding the Parkway median. If you'd like, Ms. Hunt could even speak real quickly to what the plans are for that. But that is in the works.
Well, we need more weeders everywhere.
So that's on us to budget for that, which you have, to be fair, you did bring up during the budget process, Commissioner Shaw. So
Yes, I have.
sounds like we're hearing that and getting
Yeah,
some
I
solutions
suggested
brought forward to us.
1%, I did.
And just as because it can get lost in the, the budget's big and it's a lot to look at, but there is more in the Parks Department's budget for maintenance than it looks like. The maintenance line item is specific to that. We have a number of professional services in that professional services line item for maintenance. So it's really bigger than the number looks.
But it's still not enough.
Agreed. Yeah, yeah.
Yes. So Mitch had his hand up, and then Jackie.
Yes. I understand what the vision for this project was, but having seen both the preliminary site work that's been done so far and now the site plan before us, I no longer think that this project is in keeping with location, character, and extent in terms of the city's plans and the city's future visions for how our downtown should look, and specifically our riparian corridor. This was one of the few, yes, it was unmaintained, yes, it could have done with a bit of improvement, but relatively high-quality habitat along the lower reach of the Boardman River. That habitat has been dramatically devastated. Yes, there are new trees and shrubs and vegetation in this plan to ostensibly mitigate the trees and shrubs and vegetation that was removed. However, I don't see that increasing the quality of the habitat for wildlife, for erosion control, and for overall scenic beauty from both the landward and the riverward side that would meet what was there before. I see an increase in impervious surface. I see a steep slope that is made steeper, not made more gentle. I see a number of plants that does not meet the diversity of plants that had existed before. I see the vast majority of plants being things in the 1 to 4 foot range, and many of those shrubs that are cited as 4 feet tall will be dramatically shorter than that, which, yes, it will provide a good view for people on the other side of the street that paid top dollar for a condo, a view of the bay, but that does not make for a good park. That does not necessarily make for an enjoyable natural area. That does not provide the vision that the Lower Boardman River leadership team had intended when they put together their plan that we approved.
Just to remind the commission, we don't have a motion yet, so can we have a motion and/or questions for right now, please?
I'm sorry, mine is more of a comment, so I
Okay.
will wait for a motion.
Does somebody want to make
Question-
a question? Okay,
question.
Ken?
There was no intention or plan to remove any more trees from that area, correct? All of the disease-dying trees that were of question and concern were already removed from there?
Correct.
Okay.
And this, part of what's being added for the impervious surface, if I'm remembering, I was reading this on my phone, so everything was kind of small. This has an ADA pad, correct, for better viewing for those who might have mobility issues?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
I can expand on
Sure.
some of the, so a big portion of the design intent with the project was the parcel, if anyone remembers what it looked like before, was pretty neglected. We did mow it, so we did maintain it already, and, of course, we address any tree issues across the entire city if they come up. But this was just a kind of a piece of property that you drive by, and it was really unassuming, and there was nothing offering for the public except some covered bike parking next to a historic building. So the plans that are proposed, they provide an opportunity for people to actually gather and to recreate, to look at the river. There's an opportunity for people to enjoy the river more than before because we're providing an ADA accessible space that they can go sit and hang out with their friends while they're waiting to get into the restaurants in that area. Maybe they wander down from the Little Fleet with their food. So the intention of it was to not have it remain this neglected parcel that just wasn't doing much for people. And that is the reason for the brick paver terrace and the overlook. Also, we tried to mimic what the Hannah Park overlook, the aesthetic of that. So this will look very similar to the Hannah Park overlook in terms of the brick paver with the railing, so that we're trying to match what we're doing downtown, if that helps.
Do we have other questions or a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Okay, Ken?
I move that the mayor and city clerk be authorized to execute a contract with J. Peterson Homes in the amount of not to exceed $127,939.90, which includes a 10% contingency, $116,309 plus $11,630.90, 10% contingency for the construction of the Boardman Ottaway River Pocket Park, with such contract subject as to its substance by the city manager and formed by the city attorney, with funds available per the agreement to provide funds dated July 7th, 2025.
We'd like to change the last sentence there with funds to be provided from non-city sources per the agreement to provide funds dated July 7th.
Was this the amended thing that Sarah sent?
Sorry, yeah, we forgot.
Dang it, I opened the wrong
Oh,
one.
you were super close. It's a technicality, really.
So, but
You can
that's
accept.
the motion you just made?
Yeah,
Yes,
you can accept
well
it.
done.
You're
So-
good with the language she just read?
Did she make the amendment, or should I read that?
No, she just made it, so if
As
you're
long
okay
as you
with it.
agree with it.
I
That's
support that, thank
Okay,
you.
perfect.
Second.
Thank you, Lance. All right, now Jackie for discussion.
Okay. I would simply like to reinforce a number of comments from Commissioner Treadwell. I appreciate the corporate sponsor of this project greatly. They are being good citizens. They are also creating a benefit of additional view shed for the residential units above their offices. And I think that, it's a balance of interests there. When I read the list of plantings and saw how many dwarf and low-growing plant species had been chosen, it seemed clear that preservation of that view shed long-term was an important priority. I am concerned about degradation of the bank itself. I would be much happier to see some canopy trees that provided shade and shelter for pedestrian users, although they may endanger the view shed eventually. And then I am concerned about the commitment for maintenance, as we install hardscape, and that requires more expensive maintenance than simply mowing. If there were an endowment to cover long-term maintenance, I could be much more supportive of this proposal.
Any other comments? Go ahead,
So,
Laura.
My question is about process. So it's my understanding this concept proposal was already approved by the city commission.
That is correct, yes.
And it's gone through Parks and Rec Commission, and
Design team.
has it also gone through the Planning Commission?
It's also gone through the design team,
And the
which is
design
a
team.
staff team.
So we've approved it multiple times, and now we're here at this point, and I'm hearing questions about the concept. So from my perspective, process matters. We've already gone through all of these approvals. It sounds like multiple people have touched it, reviewed it. I assume if it's gone through the Parks and Rec Commission, that some of these issues have been raised and mitigated. So I'm a little bit confused about the discussion.
Jackie? This may be my memory, but I don't recall seeing things like a planting list and so forth beforehand.
Did the planting list go to Planning Commission or Parks and
Yes.
Rec Commission?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I didn't see as detailed a site plan as we have before us here, though yes, I had seen conceptual renderings of what it could look like. It was not exactly what we have here. And also, those preliminary decisions were made before the tree removal that has been since done. And the removal of not just trees, but everything that was woody vegetation from 18 inches to 10 feet tall. That wasn't specifically marked as a tree to be preserved. Yes, many of the trees that were removed were in ill health. They were invasive species, but a forest is healthy when it's at most as intact as possible. Even a tree that is individually distressed can still protect the trees around it from wind shear, from the buffeting of snowstorms that we can get in the winter. I would like to see some more evergreens here, but I don't see in the trees that are being replaced enough, as Commissioner Anderson said, canopy-style trees that will provide that resilient forest cover for this area.
Okay. Any other comments on this item? Seeing none, I will ask for public comment. Any public comment on this item? Seeing none, I'll bring it back. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Roll call.
Commissioner Treadwell,
No?
Commissioner Anderson,
No.
Mayor Pro Tem Ness,
Yes.
Commissioner Shaw,
Yes.
Commissioner Bomer,
Yes.
Commissioner Funk,
Yes.
Mayor.
Yes, so motion fails.
No, motion passes.
Oh,
So it's
passes.
5 yeses.
Oh, sorry, I missed one. Good. Okay. Sorry, I was going to ask what happens next to that space then. So good. Okay. So next item is consideration of authorizing an agreement for professional legal services for city attorney. If you were all not riveted and glued to your computers and televisions at home at 9 a.m. on Thursday or 9 a.m. on Friday, we did go through the selection process of a new city attorney. We landed with the Kelly firm to be represented by Dan Kelly, and I commend both Mr. Kelly and our city attorney Lauren for getting together over the weekend and pushing through so that we could vote on this agreement so we can get our new council working with our current council before we lose her at the end of the month. So this was sent to commissioners. There's also the printed copy before us. So now it is on us to agree to the agreement. So do we have questions about it? Did anybody have, I think in legalese, it went over a lot of the things we had discussed at our meeting on Friday of looking for in the initial agreement. Or was there any other questions that we had for Lauren on it? Go ahead, Heather.
It still, it doesn't talk about multiple attorneys billing the same matter, or, prohibiting that. It doesn't prohibit block billing. It doesn't prohibit billing for attorney education, and it doesn't prohibit billing for internal conferences. And I think that's important. And it was brought up by Fred Bimber, and I I agree. I also think that whatever the gateway, or what do we call that? The
Gatekeeper?
Gatekeeper framing is really important because it's very difficult to parse out from this agreement who the attorney works for.
That will be part of our discussion on
Yeah.
the 6th, but Lauren, you wanted to address some of the items that were just brought up?
So in terms of who the attorney works for, the attorney, it's sometimes very confusing even for other attorneys when you explain this to them, because a municipal corporation is different than a normal corporation. The city attorney works for the corporation of the city, represented by the city commission, and advises also the staff and the city manager as needed. But the client is the corporation of the city. So that is always clear, that is clear in the agreement. I am not privy to any comments that were made by Mr. Bimber, so I don't know what any of those might be about. So I can't speak to those at all.
Can I just add that the city attorney serves at the pleasure of the city commission? So
Right.
even though they represent all the city's officers and so forth, ultimately they take direction from the city commission.
Right, correct.
And I think in all of our interviews, all of the applicants said, at the end of the day, I answer to you. At the end of the day, I do what you tell me. And at the end of the day, I advise you, but it's ultimately up to you to make the decisions. So that is where we're at. The gatekeeper policy is ours to make, not theirs, so we will be discussing that on the 6th as well. And both the city manager will come with it. He's recommending for staff in a broad sense, and we will hammer out what that means for us. So.
It's just hard to say, it's hard to see if it's, the attorney is an extension of the staff, or if the attorney is accountable to the city commission. It's just
The
hard to
city
see in
attorney
that.
serves at the pleasure of the city commission. So what that means is the city commission chooses the city attorney. The city attorney serves the entire corporation. So what that means is if the city manager comes to the city attorney and asks a question on some sort of process or some sort of decision that he has to make, the city attorney will advise the city manager or the city engineer or the city assessor and so forth. The city attorney serves at the pleasure of the city commission. The choice of city attorney is made by the commission.
And that is specified in the city charter, which
Correct.
cannot be superseded by any agreement the city commission would ever authorize.
All right, well, we'll leave that to one side, but isn't anybody else concerned about double billing, block billing for attorney education?
I will tell you, I would never approve that expense.
Yeah.
And those bills will all have to be approved by me.
Laura.
So what we talked about at our meeting on Friday was the multiple ways that we, as a commission, can manage our legal expenses. And specifically, what we talked about was, first, having a policy, a gatekeeper policy in place that's developed by the city manager for staff, and how staff will be accessing the legal services to make it as efficient as possible. Second, having the commission come up with a policy on how we will be interacting with the attorney, whether that's office hours or for our questions and needs for legal opinion. And then the third was, we talked specifically about, and I don't think we dialed in whether it was going to be a quarter or whether it's going to be 6 months, our ability to provide oversight on those invoices, and that they will be coming to the city commission in our packets, and we will be seeing those. And so, you know, that's
Not
what
in the
we-
packet, but
not in the
they'll
packet,
come to
okay.
us.
But we'll be looking at those. And so I think it's really important that we have that oversight, and that we don't have any data so far in terms of how to manage outside counsel. But after 6 months, I think we will have a better handle on who's accessing, what departments, how are we accessing it, what does the billing look like? And we did, I believe, Lauren, we talked about putting something in here on a check-in to have some flexibility on looking at, is something there that we don't like in terms of how it's being used.
Well, we put in our check-ins just like we do with our current employees.
Right.
So quarterly sit-down check-ins, billing will be shared with us. And so, And we've asked, and we will have to fine tune this a little but it was mentioned during our discussions when we were deliberating we don't want it to just say, 7 hours commission consulting. We want, if it's, an hour with a specific commissioner, somewhat itemized so that it isn't getting into double billing, so it is getting into
So
clear and transparent
I
accounting.
agree that oversight is really important. I don't know that I think we also have to have some trust with the attorney that we're working with, and we have a city manager in place that will assist us in that oversight as well. I think it's important, but we've got some flexibility here that if we see a problem and we identify a trend, we can revisit that. This isn't set in stone for in perpetuity. It's something we can revisit once we have a better understanding of how we're using the services and what the invoices look like.
And just one additional piece that might help with the concern about cost and billing. And I will be coming back on July 6th with the policy that I'll be adopting for city staff access to the city attorney. And it will require my approval for any engagement of the city attorney. Anything that's going to result in a bill, there will be a form that'll be required, and it will establish a ceiling on the not to exceed charge for any inquiry. So that hopefully that doesn't get into this issue of then they submit a bill that I'm not comfortable approving.
I still don't understand why you wouldn't tell them what we're interested in up front. We're not interested in block billing. We're not interested in multiple attorneys billing on the same matter. Why would you just tell them that?
Well-
Straight up. And I have one more question. Is there anything in here that I think it was Grant Parsons that asked this, that litigation costs more than the regular 190?
No, everything is 190.
Okay.
And I just want to clarify two things. When you say block billing, because I genuinely don't know what that means, if you could define it. And then second, there might be truly a need where we have multiple attorneys that might need to work on one matter. That is not unusual. Lauren has had that where she's working with multiple attorneys on one matter for which we're being billed because they need to put their collective heads together.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to be argumentative, I just want to give that context that operationally that's how that can play out.
And in the past, that's come to us for a vote for additional, that was outside when it's outside the spending authority. So that's
But
also structured.
Do you mind clarifying what block billing means? Because I don't know what that term
I
is.
think it's just where it's not specified. It's
Oh.
just this whole big.
Well, it'll have to
jumble
be.
in
I
there.
will not, we
Yeah.
won't approve we don't do that for any vendor. They have to give detail.
It doesn't even specify who worked on it. It's just this whole big.
It will have to
It will
specify
have
that.
to specify.
I'll tell you that the legal bills that Light and Power gets, they all specify that.
And that's
Well-
standard practice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Jackie.
Just, I think in our conversation last week, it surrounded following the billing practices established by the Bankruptcy Court of Western Michigan, which addressed things like, billing in 6-minute increments and some other specifics like that, and that by following that set of established billing practices, which of course the Bankruptcy Court, their interest is in minimizing legal fees. So I thought there was going to be a reference to that particular billing protocol within our agreement, and I looked through quickly. I didn't notice it. Maybe it's there.
I didn't reference the bankruptcy court because the bankruptcy court is not always going to be relevant, but I referenced the standard 6-minute increments for billing, which is standard across all practices.
And in our discussion, Lauren did say that everything that you outlined from the bankruptcy court is standard and it'd be unethical not to follow it. That was, I remember her distinctly answering with that question, so I just wanted to bring that back of if we want to put ethical things in the contract that are kind of already accounted for by being a barred attorney. But go ahead.
I'm a little puzzled by the approach of including by excluding, but okay.
Do we have other questions? And I wanted to remind everybody too that as Laura said, that we can revisit this at any time. We also, there's out clauses in this, so this is not we're committing to 24 months without, and we're stuck in it, just so the public knows as we're discussing this.
In here it says the parties may agree to reopen this agreement not sooner than 9 months from its effective date for purposes of amending the pay structure.
The pay structure, but not the billing. So I just wanted to say, though, that we are trying to get this onboarded as well for us to get them working with Lauren. I believe she already has an appointment to, if we are hiring them, that she will start this week with the onboarding. So I think that we have a legal document prepared by our attorney here. So do we have other questions for this or other? Okay. Do we have to take a motion? How does it, what would the sample motion legal?
There was no motion.
Yeah, there wasn't
Oh,
one.
I'm
What would the
sorry about
legal
that.
sample motion be that we could have somebody make?
The motion would be that the mayor and city clerk be authorized to enter into the attorney-client fee agreement with the Kelly Firm PLC, subject to, such agreement subject to a form by the city attorney and substance by the city manager.
So moved.
Thank you, Laura. Thank you, Lance. Further discussion beyond
Oh.
questions? Oh, what?
We can do that.
We need to add something.
Okay, and to appoint Mr. Kelly as the city attorney.
So moved,
Okay.
Okay,
as
friendly?
amended.
Friendly.
Dan Kelly.
Okay, Dan Kelly, yes.
Dan Kelly.
Okay, any other discussion on this item? Any public comment on this item? Seeing none, I'll bring it back. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. I've got that in front of me, hold on. Okay, so actually, now we are to the end of our old business. We have no new business. Don't we need to,
I'm sorry?
don't we have to have a motion to go into closed session?
Well, that's at the end of new business. We do have a number of new business.
It's not loaded on mine.
Yeah, plenty of new
Yeah.
business.
Sorry, mine doesn't have new business all of a sudden, or old, so hold on. Wouldn't that be nice for all of us for the evening?
That would be great, yeah.
If we want to yield to me, can I just look on yours then?
Oh, sure.
Yeah, I thought there was more, but I didn't know if stuff got pulled. It was literally there a minute ago, because I remember the pilot being there. Okay, so with that, then we'll move on to new business, and we'll start with our discussion of the pilot request for 520 Railroad. And Benjamin, though, I'm going to have to ask you to join us to introduce this, please.
Absolutely.
It's
Can
no
you
big
make
deal
a
if
note
I
to
can't
make
read
sure we
it.
chat, Rebecca. All right. Yes, so you have a packet, memo rather, in your packet from our city assessor, Amy Robbins. This is an application for 57 units to receive a payment in lieu of tax arrangement for 15 years. There'd be 47 one-bedroom units, 10 two-bedroom units. And Ms. Robbins articulates in her memo what the impacts, the fiscal impacts of that approval would be. There's that analysis in there, and if you've got any detailed questions, I'll refer it to our expert, which is the city assessor, Amy Robbins.
Do we have any questions at this point? Go ahead, Jackie.
Are any of the units available for short-term rental?
No.
Thank you.
That's succinct, thank you.
Yep, go ahead, Mitch.
How is the 3% number decided upon?
Pardon?
How is the 3% pilot decided upon?
Well, they actually requested a 1% pilot, and as I looked back at our history, we had not ever issued one for 1%. So, and the 4% was out of their debt service coverage ratio requirements for the financing. So I went and thought, well, that was 4%. They've requested 1. I wonder what would happen if I looked at 2 or 3. And 3% gave the same very close numbers as the 1% in the end of over the lifetime average debt service coverage ratio. And the amount that was under the 1.2%, which is the threshold that the banks go for, was at the same level in the first 4 years only.
Okay. Go ahead, Lance, and then Jackie.
Yeah, what happens if construction starts and all of a sudden we find that that property needs some abatement from an environmental standpoint, and now the costs have increased significantly? What?
Is this through MISTA?
Did you have a question, Warren?
I'm sorry. I was typing the motion.
My question is just, what happens if we approve this, construction starts, and all of a sudden the discovery of potential environmental issues exists? If we recall, that was an old rail yard right there, and that now, $1 million in abatement needs, just spitballing a number, needs serviced, and construction doesn't go forward.
Right. So what happens if they don't meet their timeline, or they don't meet the actual construction of the units, or if the units aren't, even if the units aren't rented at the appropriate approved rates, is that they pay their taxes. So they would just pay the ad valorem taxes. The pilot can be canceled for that reason, and the backstop is that then the property owner pays the ad valorem taxes.
Okay.
I will just add that typically the due diligence period will uncover, hopefully, anything like that.
Okay.
And I don't know where this particular developer is at with that process, but that's usually what the due diligence period
Looks
is
like
for.
they're here.
They are here, yeah.
I can answer that. So we have completed our due diligence.
Would you
on the
identify
property.
yourself, please?
Yes,
Thank you.
no problem. My name is Eric Helzer, representing 520 Railroad, and my company is Advanced Redevelopment Solutions. So you are correct. Due diligence did not uncover anything that we cannot deal with. We have costs included in our pro forma for some environmental work, as well as the geotechnical and the site work that's necessary. So it is in a developable state, and that you are correct with everything that was said up here. Nothing to counter on what was said by council.
Thank you.
Great. Other questions right now? Go ahead, Jackie. Sorry, I forgot you had to raise your hand.
No worries. There is no anticipation of MISTA funding for this project?
No, MISTA is not involved in the financing of this. We are hitting the certain AMI rates that are required, and again, how it was described here, all of these units, we have to meet those AMI rates in order to maintain the pilot on those units. All of the units will also be deed restricted for that full 15 years. So there's that guarantee that we deliver those AMI units.
Go ahead, Jackie.
And there's been no planning commission review on the project to this point?
No, we're billed by right underneath the zoning, but there is some paperwork that has to be filed, but not a rezoning does not need to occur here at all.
Thank you.
Yep.
I had a quick question. So looking at the parcel size on here, and maybe I missed it in the plans, for the development, this will be displacing the garden that's there. Will it also be cutting off the railroad connector to the businesses over there, or is there going to be a space made for that? The railroad place?
That's one thing that we discovered this week, is that road is actually going in a different direction. There was an abandonment of a portion of the railroad at that point, and actually, we need to talk about that because it shouldn't be Railroad Avenue, it should be Station Street. Station Street comes across and down and over where Boyd is. Asset manager, Chrissy, is it Chrissy Black? Yeah, she's the one who brought this to our attention just yesterday afternoon.
So wait, sorry, I'm referencing what cuts through over by like the filling station.
The railroad place.
Yes, I know
There
Station
was-
Street is,
yeah.
yeah.
If you saw their site plan in the big packet.
Yeah, it
there
didn't load
is-
well for me.
Yeah, there
Page
is a
39.
road,
Didn't load for me.
yeah, that goes through that area.
Okay, thank you for that. I just was clarifying that. Go ahead, Mitch.
Yes, what's the distance between the closest point, which would be the southeast?
Hold on just one moment, sorry. I'm satisfied with the answer. Mitch is asking another one right now, so go right ahead.
Yeah, what is the distance between the closest point, which appears to be the south east corner of the building, to the rail line?
Depth of the filling station as well. Plus the road. Quite a bit. I don't have dimensions on here. It's quite a bit because you've got a double loaded parking lot. It's also the full depth of the filling station, and then you have the 30-foot egress easement, the access road. So if I had to guess, it's probably 90 to 100
Okay.
feet approximately, just without a scale on here.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, that's something that MISTA is very particular about, but you're not going through MISTA funding.
We are not.
No, Mishta would be very particular about this whole area, so. um, Do we have other questions at this time, or a motion? There's public comment after. We go motion, discussion, public comment, and then we'd have a vote, just so you, go ahead, Jackie.
May I verify the utilities do not meet the city all-electric policy? There's going to be gas, heat, and hot water? Is
No,
that
it's an
correct?
It's an electrified building. It's all electric.
Oh, okay,
Yes.
that's different than I
Yep.
read in the documents.
Mm-hmm.
That is a, just so you know, that is a standard check that we do with any pilot now to make sure that it 100% complies with the electrification policy.
And sorry,
Thank you.
Laura, I'll get to you in just a second, but it just reminded me that I was talking to Commissioners Funk and Bomer before the meeting, and with our newer commissioners and just how the process evolves, at some point in the near future, we'd like to have a study session presentation about the rubric and for the pilots that was created by a city commission ad hoc several years ago, and the commission has changed faces many times since then, so it would be nice of us to do a quick refresher so people understand what's been vetted and how it's been vetted before it comes to us a little bit
Certainly.
more.
Yeah.
Great. Sorry, go ahead, Laura.
If there's no further questions, I can make the motion.
Go right ahead. No, we do a motion, and then we have discussion, and then we go to public comment, and then we vote. Well, then please hold on, and we'll allow that in public comment. Much appreciated, but let us go through our process so that we go in order and everybody understands what's going on. So, go ahead, Laura.
That the resolution granting tax exemption for the property at 520 Railroad as requested by the 520 Railroad LLC at a rate of 3% in a term of 15 years be adopted.
Support.
Okay, thank you, Mayor Pro Tem and Commissioner Funk. All right, any further discussion from commissioners? Go ahead, Heather.
Yeah, I'm back to affordability here. The one-bedrooms are slated to cost $2,201, and that is not affordable for a worker making $50,000, which is what so many workers make. It's not workforce housing. In fact, $2,200 for a one-bedroom is about $700 more than the current average one-bedroom listed in Traverse City. So to be able to pay that amount, you have to be making $88,000. So I would like to understand who exactly these units are intended to serve and how many Traverse City workers actually fall within that rent ban.
So a couple of things. So the rents that you're quoting are inclusive of utilities. So that's a very important piece. An all-electrified building is also not a cheap factor. Gas is far cheaper. So there's inherently added cost in the electrification of a building. So just so we're clear on that. And as far as the AMIs are picked, so like was mentioned before, our financing is not an affordable, deep affordable. It is strictly workforce, which is at or below 120% AMI. We're delivering these units between 80 and 100% AMI. They will not be over 100% AMI. I don't know what page it is. My printout from the agenda packet didn't print it, but there are a list of AMIs and targets for one-person household, two-person household, and three-person household. So in a three-person household at 80% AMI, the income that would require to be in there is about $82,000. And if it's 100% AMI to qualify in there, that is $102,000. So that's the range in a three-person household. If you want to look at a one-person household in the singles, which you would get in a lot of studios or one-bedrooms, and we don't have studios in this project. We intentionally did not want to deliver studios for this project to encourage more of the family unit to be there. Where 80% AMI is $63,000 and 100% AMI is about $79,000, and that's for a single person household. So give you a little bit of a context for range, both what is included in those rents and the AMI range band that we're targeting.
Jackie, I do see your hand, but can I ask a quick clarifying question about utilities?
Thank you. So when you say utilities are included, is that electric? Is that electric and fiber? Because we do have fiber available through
So-
TCLP.
Yeah, so low volt is not considered one of those utilities. It's kind of a luxury.
Okay.
When you're looking at those kinds of things, so it's your water, your sanitary, your sewer, gas, if it was a gas building, and electric.
Okay,
So,
so sewage and water, okay. Thank you. Jackie, go ahead.
Could you tell us the square footage of the one-bedroom apartments, please?
I could look that up, yes.
Sorry, I've got a team working on it here. For those watching at home, we didn't freeze.
Didn't know it was the summer.
One bedroom would be 12 by 9.
So, yeah, we don't have
Okay.
the full detailed plans here, but it's about 800 square feet to 1,100 square feet for the one bedrooms. It's in a range because there's different floor plate sizes, so they're
Huge.
quite large. And then the two bedrooms are larger than that.
Thank you.
Do we have other questions?
We were doing our math on that too, on the
Okay.
square footage, sorry.
It's okay. Okay.
Well,
Go ahead,
I'm
Heather.
just going
Or
to say
comments,
one
too.
more time, pilots are one of the few tools that we have in the city, and I think we have to be really disciplined about what the public benefit is of what we're buying, and what we're buying is a cost to the city of over 15 years of $1,200,000. When the average one-bedroom in Traverse City is $700 less than what they're offering here, okay, and the utilities are not included, but that's still just lop $100 off or something. I don't know, I'm a little concerned about this one.
The utility range is right around $300 for the average utility. And that's not considering deep winters. There have been, some of these units can go as much as $400, but it's right around $300 for the average utility bill.
Makes sense.
For
That's
electric
all,
and
that's all,
heat.
all
Yeah.
utilities.
So
Well, 'cause it's heat
the
electric.
Electric
Yeah.
and water. so-
Yeah, electric is the one that drives the cost up the
Yes,
biggest.
it
Yeah.
does. Other questions right now? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to open up for public comment now. So you'll have, please approach the podium. You'll have 3 minutes each. You can line up if there's a few people who want to talk, and you will all, we don't, just to let everybody know, because it seems like there's some newer people here, it's not a conversation, so we won't answer questions for you one-on-one, but we can make notes and try to answer them afterwards. So please, we'll let Rebecca read the rules. We have rules for public comment. We always read them beforehand, and then we'll let you know when you can start. But thank you.
We ask that you state your name and address, indicate if you're a city resident, non-city resident, and/or city business owner. We have 3-minute time allotment per speaker. When your time is elapsed, the time will beep. And finally, we request that all language be respectful to all parties.
And now you can go right ahead.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth Cohan. I live at 648 East 8th Street, which is my back street is Station Street, incorrectly identified as Railroad. It's essentially a paved alley, okay? There were 57 or 47 apartments mentioned, some of that, but it's a 75-unit apartment building that will be 4 stories and will be the tallest thing in that area. It's not that I'm against it. I just think that there needs to be a lot more investigation and information. So will the maximum income level of, say, $79,000 for one person decide what the rent is for these apartments? Something in the pilot program said something about rent can be no more than 30% of the tenant's adjusted household income. When it says in there 15 years during the pilot period, how will this be any different than what happened with the Ridge 45 apartments? Because it just seems like it's words on paper and it doesn't really mean anything. They can be amended. The proposed apartments have parking, however, the apartments would adversely impact the immediate area. That's my opinion. Can you speak to that issue at some point? Again, Station Street is essentially an alley. People speed down that now like crazy. The parking at the apartment, I can guarantee you, will affect my back area. There was a recently constructed natural gas mains on there, so I don't know how that comes into play. Lance earlier said something about how are we rewarding our residents here. My rent has been raised $600 in the last 2 years. I understand why my landlord did that, but I can't afford anymore. I was in a good situation. That has changed. I'm not in a bad situation, but I'm less comfortable. I won't be able to live here if this continues. I wouldn't be able to live in these apartments being proposed after being a 20-year veteran teaching. How can veteran teachers how can starting teachers, fire people, and police people afford these apartments? They can't. I volunteer in this community. I shop locally. I've lived here for 6 years. Ever since I was a resident of Illinois 40 years ago, I wanted to live here. Crazy, I know. It just seems like this is a done deal, and I have major concerns. So thank you for listening, and I really appreciate your ears.
Thank you. Is there any more public comment on this item? Again, please feel free to line up too if there's a few people.
Okay. My name is Jessica Schimpf. I live at 521 Depot Court. I'm a resident of Traverse City. What other information did you guys need?
That's good.
Okay. And I apologize if I speak or slow or I stumble. I just had surgery on Thursday. The reason why I'm here tonight is because we just found out about this on Friday night or Saturday morning, so I felt like it was important that I come and express some of the concerns that I have with not necessarily the pilot project, but the design that's being proposed. I thank you for your time to allow me to make my statements. When I purchased my home under an affordable program, I was aware that the vacant property behind my house would eventually be commercially or residentially developed. I understand that Traverse City is a desirable area with a finite amount of vacant property, and there's a need for affordable housing within the city limits. My concerns are not related to the inevitable progress of development within our city or development on this particular site. My concerns are regarding the impact of the current homeowners, businesses, and taxpayers. This area is already a very congested area with limited exits and entry points and decreased visible sight lines to access 8th Street and Woodmere. The addition of 75 units, potentially 100 additional vehicles, will cause an excess of congestion, causing potential dangerous conditions for pedestrians, cyclists, and patrons along the TART trail and the filling station easement. The site plan does not specify the setback distance between the existing residential structure and the proposed west end of the building. However, the concern is the proximity to the existing building and the access of emergency vehicles and personnel. When I was on the board for the HOA for our homeowner association, I met with the fire marshal regarding parking restrictions on Depot Court. He advised that for the building for our height, which is 3 stories currently, an aerial truck is needed for fire, which requires a 13-foot easement or access on both sides of the rig, not including the truck itself, which should at least yield at least approximately 32 feet on each total. The site rendering does not seem to comply with the fire restrictions for access, potentially putting both properties in jeopardy. Additionally, the limited setbacks between the proposed building and the existing building will create an immediate and significant reduction in natural light, creating a wall and canyon-like effect for certain units of the existing property, as well as an unreasonable loss of privacy. The indiscriminate placement of the west end of the proposed building also may potentially negatively affect the property and resale value for only certain homeowners affected by the minimal setback proposed. The proposed building not only would create an undue impact on current residences, but changes the established residential character of the area. I also feel that the artist rendering of the proposed building is somewhat deceptive in that it does not accurately portray the existing homes and businesses, rather portrays an idealistic urban family setting.
Thank you for that. And then please feel free to continue on yours. Oh, sorry, she's just, the buttons are just being touchy, so
okay.
your time is allotted, but she
I was
didn't mean to
like, 3
triple
minutes are
buzz
up.
you.
Got it. I
No,
hope
your
that
your time has a lot, is
okay.
out,
I'm
sorry.
good then.
Go right ahead. Yep.
Sally Rass, I'm at 521 Depot Court, Unit B. So it looks like from what the rendering is, there's a 8 unit building that's the closest in our Depot condo unit owners. And 4 of the units are going to be completely blocked by the 4 stories. The other 4 units that are closest to the filling station are going to have a few parking spots in front of it. And from the rendering, it looks like there's like maybe 2 feet of grass and then a half of parking spot that they call green space, which we're 3 stories, they're 4 stories. And so I won't be able to see daylight until noon because that building is going to be so close to my balcony. I'll be lucky to see the sun. 4 of us. And 75 units on that small piece of property, it's not big. I mean, most of you I know that area of 8th Street where it comes there and the filling station's there and the garden center. That is a very small piece of property, and it's going to destroy the look of the Depot area. It's so congested, especially in the summer with the filling station, that the filling station parking, all the people that come on the weekends, it takes up the entire field with parking. I don't know if you've ever noticed when you go by there, either when there's special events, a lot of times the Traverse City biking people go there on a Thursday night. There's not a spot to be had in that whole field, anywhere around. They park everywhere. And I just feel like it's going to become a danger. And I'm not opposed to it either. I knew this was coming as well. But 75 units is so excessive. There was a plan originally when we first bought our homes there that was, I think it was either 48 or 52 units. It was a very nice looking piece of property. This looks like an encampment. It does not look like the Depot neighborhood. Everybody's been very thoughtful. That is the Habitat houses, the condos that are along 8th Street, and then our Depot community. They all have the same sort of vibe and the feel for the Depot. And these just, I just can't imagine Traverse City would want that.
Thank you. Your time for speaking has elapsed. Thank you for your comments.
Hi, my name is Mike Joyce. I live 612 Station Street, apartment A, and I am a local business owner. I just want to reiterate the traffic concern, especially during the summer. I don't know if traffic studies are required, or they certainly should be, or at least considered. This time of year, it's starting to heat up. Filling station is a very busy place. In fact, usually that grass field is about half full of patrons. So I'm a little concerned about where they're all going to go when this goes into place, and I'm almost certain that the parking will be reserved for, tenants only. So they're going to be parking in my driveway or, across the street or wherever. I'm a little concerned about where everyone's going to go. And we've got kids there. I was also mentioned that we're a Habitat community. Lots of little kids and a lot of foot traffic. So I would hope that there's at least some more consideration made for traffic concerns and what we might do to alleviate that. So, anything you want to add?
We'll start all over, so she'll have a whole fresh time period, so.
Hi, I'm Jill Noland. I live at 612 Station Street. I'm very concerned about the parking. I'm very concerned about the travel of the number of cars. We have 75 cars that will make 2 to 3 trips a day. That's 150 trips for those cars to almost 400 trips for those cars to go in and out that section of Woodmere and where the Tart Trail is. That's a very, very busy section, and people now do not stop crossing that street at Woodmere if you push the button and you're trying to get across on your bike. And if you haven't experienced it, you need to. Also, turning left out onto 8th Street from Depot Court is terrible, and you don't do it during this time of the summer. You just wait until fall, and hopefully all those people will go back home. But at this point, we're now seeing our population increase, and it will get worse at that intersection. Also, we had a big flood issue. Beitner Bridge is out. All those people are now traveling down 8th Street. Or Airport Road. Again, we have extra traffic on that street. I don't know if you remember when the Parkway was closed and 8th Street had much more traffic than what it does now. That was a terrible situation. I'm glad Parkway is open again. Again, Habitat has lots and lots of kids. Our neighbor girl just had a baby, and we want babies and families to live here. We want to see those kids be safe. We have a lot of transient people who come down our street from the homeless shelter. That's not a good situation either, but we understood that this would happen, and we're not opposed to it. We're just opposed to the number of units and the height and the traffic. That's what we're opposed to. At any point, was there a traffic feasibility study done? If there should have been, because that's a lot of traffic into our neighborhood. The filling station has prohibited us from parking in their parking lot. What's going to happen when we have 75 to 125 cars? Right now, there's only 70 parking spaces for this place. So maybe they should do underground parking. I don't know, just a thought. Backing out of my driveway is incredibly hard because people race down Station Street like it's a speedway, for being an alley that just got converted to a little two-way street. It is very, very hard to get in and out of there. I think that's my biggest concerns at this point. Also, take a look at the site plan. They put their parking lot across the street.
Thank you for your comments. Your time has elapsed. Thank you, though.
Bill Manning, 905 Bay Street, Traverse City resident. As a former income property owner, when I developed wanted to increase the size of the garage on that property, on-site parking spaces were required. Now, Traverse City doesn't require any on-site parking, and there is a development going on in Spruce Street right now where the feelings were that they were going to, the developer was going to have tenants that would find parking somewhere, but yet walk the community to their jobs. They were, their target market is probably Munson employees, something to that effect. But in the developer's defense, the group that is developing the Sheffer Collett property on Carver Street, at that time, commission concern was, what about affordable housing? And they were about as truthful as anybody. They said, how do you develop affordable housing at the cost of materials, at the cost of labor? You make it affordable by increasing the number of units. And if you look at, somebody mentioned like Chicago developed outward towards Naperville and Aurora and kept developing out that way to develop affordable housing. and public transit move people into the cities. Everybody wants to live in Traverse City, and that affordable housing just isn't hardly attainable unless you build larger units. So I think a couple different things. If with the increased number of units, or however many units are going to be over there, I feel the sorrow for the people. There's going to be parking all over the streets. They're not going to be parking at your development, at their residence. People are going to just park wherever they want to, because no on-site parking is required. So those are just some of my thoughts on that.
Thank you.
Mr. Reed, 630 Kaiser Drive, Apartment 1B. I'm Traverse City, Michigan resident. Housing in general, you know, whenever you don't have a density and zoning, both those things kind of X out affordability. You know, if you don't have any of those, and also the fact that you have to have some sort of MSHDA involved. That's another thing with affordable housing. And maybe, I don't know, maybe we need to encourage more density in Traverse City. And also the height restrictions also did us a favor by not helping out the affordability at all. So density, height restriction, zoning, both of those are a catalyst that say, well, you know, we make it where it's unaffordable. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other public comment on this? Seeing none, I'm
We
going
got
to,
one.
oh, sorry, go ahead. I apologize. It's okay. Take your time getting up.
May forget what you're even trying to say. But in a
Please do introduce yourself, Ms. Edmonds, just for the record.
You know, I've been here, or I've had property here a long time.
Please state your name and your address.
Oh, I'm
Thank you so
sorry.
much.
I'm Beatrice Edmond, and my address is 746 Washington Street.
Thank you.
So I'm near all of this you're talking about on 8th Street and Commercial, that complex of the huge complex in a small area. And I think we're creating slowly, all of you, a commercial monstrosity to what was a beautiful residential area. And one of which is what has been bothering me and created this thought was on Barlow. I think that the street in front of me, there has been on Barlow a building built, and to me it's over limit. It's higher than anything in our surrounding area. And I'm thinking, for heaven's sake, we had the beauty of going to the lake, walking down to the lake, going to the Senior Citizen Center, which is now nicely built, everything, and yet then you create this on Barlow Street, and I can't imagine why, and trying to figure out why. You know, it just doesn't fit. And are you all thinking of what fits into whatever your area you're trying to do things? I understand commercialism, but I do think that in some areas, look at it very closely as to what you're doing and creating. That's worrisome. And it's not just me. Neighbors are nice enough and smart enough not to say anything. And I'm stupid enough and old enough to say everything. So anyway, thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Edmonds. Right, we ask that you keep your applause to yourselves, please. Any other public comment at this time? Raise your hand if you need a second to get up. I don't want to miss anybody like last time. Okay. Seeing none, I'm going to bring it back, but I did want to ask a couple questions from the public comment. If we could have representatives come back up, please. You know, I agree with the questions about the renderings here. This looks like it's being built in a field in the middle of nowhere. I live across the street from Station Street from this, so I know that's not true. So I'm curious how this does look when it abuts up to the homestretch townhouses there. And the traffic, you know, was there a traffic study? How was traffic looked at? Is this, I would like those questions answered too that were raised during public comment.
I'll hit those kind of in reverse, and I don't know if you want to.
Yeah, whichever order is totally fine.
Piece to it, and he'll be able to answer that better than I can. So as far as the traffic and the traffic study and so forth, as everybody knows, 8th Street was redesigned. I want to say it was in 2019, rebuilt from a 4-lane road down to a very high efficiency 3-lane road, and took away a lot of the left turns, which was creating a lot of congestion. This property in your master plan is a priority site. It's one of the top 2, I believe, for the city for redevelopment. If you look at the master plan as well, it shows a much denser development than what we are even proposing there. Reason we did not go to that density is we had some constraints with easements on the property as well as some overhead electrical that were on the northeast corner of the property that bisect the property. We have parked this property as a 1-to-1. Well, there is no parking requirement, so there's 75 total units. There are 75 parking spaces. We have corrected some of the inefficiencies, I would have to say, that are there with the road improvements that we are making on the property itself by straightening the roads and reconfiguring those around the property for efficiency. I can't speak to how the property was used by whom before. The property is for sale. It's been for sale. It is a larger piece of property as well. It is 1.5 acres approximately. And a property with this kind of density that we're proposing there is pretty low density for an acreage property of this size. I think I'm getting most everything except for the architectural piece. Did I miss
I asked
something?
how close it was to the Habitat townhouses as well.
You want to come up a second? Well, I'll let him introduce himself, and then he can talk to that.
Hi, my name's Michael Sherman. 225 East 14th Street is our office. I'm a principal in the company, and I lead the architecture, engineering, design team that worked on this. This site was quite a puzzle. There's, like Eric said, there was easements and there was existing infrastructure, electrical lines that we had to respect. We actually changed the site at least 5 times, I would recollect, and the building itself at least 3 times to make the site respect the surrounding buildings. I don't know the exact dimension to the building you're asking, but we tried to respect and pull the building away where we could and create open areas with the parking. We painstakingly parked every unit in this project. It's very important to us that the impact of the building and the site was mitigated by how we designed it. The circulation around the site is right now really quite a disaster because of the roads, and they're not improved. We tried to incorporate new design. We did do studies on flow as far as, you know, we work with staff. You know, we don't get to this point without working with staff, and, you know, everything that we've done, as Eric said, it's use by right. We're respecting the zoning and the ordinances. We don't want to get variances. We want to stay within the limits. And like Eric said, we could have done, I think, more density, but we chose to downsize it to meet the parking needs and the site needs.
And then, so really quickly, ballpark, how far you are from it? I got.
So this is, looks like it's 30 feet from that line to that one.
Yep.
So if you want to estimate.
So you're, it's all the way to here, right?
So is she done this end?
So there's two ends. There's a closed end.
Oh,
and
those,
No, okay, sorry, go ahead. They were showing on the map, but I had to explain that the townhouses are in between the actual Habitat houses. I'm talking about the townhouses, what I was
Can I bring
explaining to
this
them.
up and ask you where you're looking?
Uh,
Can I approach the bench?
Yeah, no, well, what I'm asking about is, this is being built next to the townhouses. How close is it to the townhouses ballpark?
Okay.
Those are the nearest development right there, right? What? East side. No, please, I'm asking, it's the east side,
I
sorry.
just want to give an exact dimension. Yeah. You're looking at-
You're in the far northwest corner, right, where the building L shapes?
I'm talking about the east side.
East side. The west.
West side, sorry, west side.
Yeah.
Yep, sorry, I flipped
But-
myself.
That's here in the east side.
That's okay, but the northwest corner of our building, how close that is, correct?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, that'd be right there. So if that's 30 feet, I would guess it's probably half of that.
Yeah. You're probably 17 to 18 feet.
Okay. And then, just for the orientation part, help me really quick on the parking. That looks like that's on the other side of the Railroad Place or whatever that's called, correct? Okay, thank you. I'm just trying
That
to-
is for residents, though.
Yeah,
Yes.
yes, of course, but I'm just trying to orientate myself over there.
Correct.
Yep.
Okay. Great, okay, I think did anybody catch any questions that were asked that I missed? Okay.
I have something more
Go
to
ahead,
say.
Heather.
So, I'm actually not opposed to this project, but I just question the subsidy. You know, the rents are so close to market rate that I just really don't, I mean, you asked for 1%, you know?
So-
Why not 0? Well, just a second.
Okay.
I think we've got a real disconnect in Traverse City between the AMI numbers and actual wages of service workers. And service workers are workforce, right? I'd like to read you quickly an advertisement for food services office manager that was in the classified of the Northern Express recently. NMC seeks food services office manager. Assist with clerical support, including accounts payable and student meal plans for the Haggerty Event Center and Hawk Owl Cafe, ! $49,039, full-time, year-round with full benefits. So take $49,000, you take $10,000 out for taxes, you got a take-home monthly pay of $3,250. You can afford less than $1,000 in rent. So please help me understand how subsidizing this project helps a worker like this, who probably has a college degree and probably has student debt. Is the answer simply that more housing for some is more housing for all? I mean, that's not a terrible idea, but it is, again, a subsidy over 15 years of $1,200,000.
And you had wanted to address something that sounded like.
Sure, I do not disagree with her that we have a affordability problem with our housing. You're dead right. I'm fortunate enough to work on deep affordable. We work on affordability down to 30% AMI. You're talking about affordability around 40 to 45%. That is not this project or for this location as well. There is plenty of space in different areas and different projects. We happen to be working on some where we're hopeful to bring some more buildings that will be more affordable than this one. We're not here, and unfortunately, we can't solve that affordability problem with this project. The amount of subsidies that it would take and the years it would take to put a project together, most of those projects take us no less than 3 to 5 years to be able to pull the financing together for a development like that. The amount of subsidies that we end up bringing into a deal are sometimes in the 40 to 50% of cost in order to bring that affordability here. So it is a challenge. It's not just a challenge in Traverse City. I'm fortunate enough to work at this entire state. And I don't care where you are in some of the more affluent areas and other parts of the state. It's a problem. So it's not necessarily this project. We're targeting an AMI range of 80 to 100% AMI. I don't set the AMI levels. We work within those requirements. Workforce is 120% and below, and we're not targeting even that high. The County of Grand Traverse actually has a limitation in recognizing this same thing that you're mentioning, and has brought their level of workforce housing down from 120 to 100, and so this is respectful of that as well. So I wish we could solve that affordability problem with this project, but it is hitting a needed segment of affordability. And with the 2-bedroom and 1-bedroom units that we have, and young families and people, that there is a way for them to have housing in the city. Not everybody also has cars. This property is a great location. I mean, we're so blessed with the amount of bike paths and walking paths that we have from this property and its location. And we find that not everybody wants a car, even in our buildings. So having a one-to-one, we're often finding in a number of the projects that I work on that we're closer to a 0.6 to 1 unit, so that for every 1 unit, there's about 0.6 of a car. So not everybody has a car. So I think you're onto something, but you're onto something that the state is trying to solve a couple of different ways. There's a package of bills right now. One is to amend the transformational brownfield plan, which will give added boost on transformational brownfield plans for affordability. There's another that's for a tax credit program that is all through the state. The state basically will pay 90 cents on a dollar for tax credits when you deliver affordability on projects. So there are things in the works. It's going to take a while. Unfortunately, summer recess is coming up, and we have an election year. Hopefully, from what I'm hearing, is one of those packages will make it through before summer recess. The other is probably dead until the election's over, unfortunately. But we'll keep working on it and keep listening to you on affordability and how we can make our numbers work. But it's very, very tough to even make this project work at the levels that we have here. But if we throw even deeper affordability on it, the project's dead.
Thank you.
May I just respond quickly?
Yes, and then
I agree, we need housing. We absolutely need housing, and I'm sure somebody needs housing at the prices that you are offering, although affordable, I don't know about that. Our subsidy dollars are precious. We do not have access to brownfield money anymore, unfortunately. And I feel that you ask for 1%, you can probably make do with no percent.
So we did provide in the packet, I don't know if there's a lot of information in there, so I'm not sure if you saw it. There's a page in there that talks about no pilot. It's a summary. It also, we provided a pro forma that has been reviewed and scrutinized by our lenders and the investment team. With all the costs, this thing has been fully vetted out. The project is non-viable without a pilot. So we did provide that as a comparison. I think it was on your other issue of old business. There was the discussion of how do you determine how, what is the impact on the taxes, that, are the taxes really creating a problem for these to be financed and to be built? And the answer is yes. And that's that one-page sheet, if you can look for that, so in front of the pro forma that says no pilot. That sheet spells out what happens when we have that tax level, when we're trying to provide the affordability that we're proposing here in this particular project, and it's non-viable. We need to meet what's called a debt service coverage ratio of 1.20. So that means for every dollar that is spent, we have to have added coverage in the case of vacancies, collection loss, and so forth. If there's a market fluctuates, as everything does, banks require no less than a 1.2 debt service coverage ratio. A lot of lenders actually are moving to a 1.30 debt service coverage ratio. So the only thing we can do in order to affect that, in order to build these projects, is increase rent or lower cost, or some combination of the two. So that's what we've done on this particular project. So we've brought our debt service coverage ratio to a point. We have our first 4 or 5 years? The first 4 years, we're below our requirement. But we're looking at this as an average over 15 years. So we're going to cover that shortfall that the lender is going to require in that first 4 years. But that blended 15-year, we meet that requirement. So it's a challenge. As Michael had mentioned, we've worked on numerous designs here, looking at costs, looking at ways to deliver this project. The other answer is to increase rent, and it's not going to be popular when I say this, but it's to increase density. Increasing density, dropping the unit sizes dramatically increases revenue within the same square footage, and that's not what we want to do.
I will say that studio apartments everybody wants one, and there are none in town. So,
Yep, we're working on some.
Laura?
Not this one, but we're working on some.
Laura?
Thank you. I appreciate your comments and the challenges associated with this project. I'm really wrestling with this decision because I see some really real public benefits, some very real fiscal implications for the city, and some very real neighborhood concerns. On the one hand, I think we all know we have a very significant housing inventory issue and some real affordability issues, as Commissioner Shaw pointed out. This project would deliver 57 deed-restricted workforce housing units in that 80 to 100% AMI range, and an additional 18 market-rate units through a private investment of over $25 million. I think it's clear without the pilot, it's likely that this property will be developed without the workforce housing component, and I'm not sure that we want that. On the other hand, for the city, these pilot programs are not free. And based on the assumptions detailed in the packet, and I think we've all acknowledged this, this pilot would represent an annual city concession of about $80,000. And when we combine that with the Common Ground pilot that we just approved 4 weeks ago, we're looking at an estimated annual city concession of about $600,000. Those are real numbers. And I think the time has come for this commission to take a look at, do we need a policy on these pilot programs? Do we need to establish a percentage of what we do every year? It's having a real meaningful fiscal impact. So I would strongly encourage us, no matter how we vote tonight, to move forward with some type of policy discussion around our pilot programs. However, I don't think it would be fair to apply a new policy framework around an existing applicant who came forward under the current framework. So for that reason, I'm prepared to support this proposal tonight based on the information that we've been provided.
So I'm going to say that this came up during, I think it was during that last pilot discussion. It is calendared for the fall for us to have that conversation.
Thank you.
Is my understanding.
Along with the fund balance.
Yes.
Great.
I'm doing right now what former Commissioner Gary Howe used to do when he was thinking through a decision but needed to buy himself some time and just started talking. So I'm going to do that for a minute. I'm struggling with this one as well. We do need more housing. We do need it at all different rates. Because I live over there and I know more than anecdotal and more than flow how things work over there, and the pressure we see from the TART trail, the pressure we see from the businesses, and the pressure we see from the development there. I think about that and have a lot of concerns like have been brought up here. I also know that if this was going for MSHDA funding, it probably wouldn't get it because this area has been dumped on in many different ways. A lot of projects, which is good because it has had a lot of open space in the city to allow for density, but it has become the home of habitat houses, home stretch houses, affordable housing complexes, the sewage treatment plant, and a shelter, none of which are bad. I'm neighbors with all of them, and I love them all as neighbors. It is why MSHDA will not, and also proximity to an airport. That is why MSHDA is thinks that area has been used up enough. And so I think that I see your hand up. The public comment's over, unfortunately. So this is public comment is over. I'm sorry. So you do have to let us speak on this. So, but I don't want to ignore you over there. But so I am struggling because I do know the impact this will have on an area that's used not just by neighbors that have been mentioned, but the public as well with the TART trail. And I agree that the rates are, I mean, every little bit helps, but these are not the rates that are super attractive for where we want to apply things sometimes. So I'm just using that time to help me buy things. I don't know what I'm going to say at this point. So I am done speaking. If anybody else needs to or wants to, we'll do Mitch, Jackie, Ken, and then everybody's only getting one round on this though because we have had deliberation. So go ahead, Mitch, Jackie, and then Ken.
Yeah. First off, I appreciate the applicant coming back with a number that they actually use for their parking that is less than a one-to-one. For the Traverse City Housing Commission, on which I sit, we have seen numbers below 0.4, but that has to be assessed on a project-by-project basis. And you do have in areas that have good access to trails, that are close to bus routes, that are close to walking distance to downtown, a lot of people that will opt for a way other than their own car. However, I am concerned just how much this area, the wedge between 8th Street and Woodmere has developed, and to the mayor's point, the specific type of development that has gone in there. Yes, it has 2 bars. Yes, it has multiple law firms and health businesses. It's got a tire shop. But in the past 10 years, it's seen a single-family housing development with Habitat for Humanity. It's seen townhouses with Homestretch. It's seen Ruth Park. It's seen West Shore Bank. It's seen Safe Harbor go from emergency shelter to all winter to now 365. Yes, we have a need for housing. Yes, this area, as identified by all the other projects that have gone in here, is proximate to a lot of services and a lot of transportation options. But it does make me wonder if this is really the best place to put this many units, and if the precious subsidy dollars that we have are really doing their most benefit in this location. Frankly, I can see a scenario where this parcel gets developed for market rate units, which would be fewer in number, and allows us to use the same subsidy dollars ultimately in some other part of the city, that would still result in new housing in this vacant land, but it would also lead to more diversity of income level in this neighborhood rather than concentrating people that are all or overwhelmingly below 100% AMI.
Thank you. Jackie?
I came into this conversation, and after having listened to the public comment, continue to have some concerns. One of them has to do with pedestrian and vehicle and bicycle safety at an already very congested intersection. I share Commissioner Shaw's concerns about the overall rent levels, even with the subsidies, even subtracting the utility component of $300 a month. You're still talking $1,900 for a one-bedroom subsidized apartment, which strikes me as unattainable for so many of our residents. I am concerned about the displacement of a 30-year local business that is beloved and thriving. And to Commissioner Ness's point about pilot policy, where every dollar is precious, and I am concerned about what incremental ways that we are able to serve our community with this scenario. I have been thinking and beginning individual conversations about the need not just for a pilot policy, but for a broader housing policy for this community. You know, has anyone looked at what happens if we subsidize property taxes, or if we subsidize public transit so that public housing can be built on less expensive land and truly become affordable. So there are bigger conversations, and I think there are enough concerns about this particular development that I won't be supporting the pilot for this one.
Ken, you were next.
The narrow amount of, I'm sorry, let me look at this. I want to use the right term. The debt service coverage ratio is so close to that 1.2, which is the minimum amount that they will accept in order to finance something like this, says a lot to the fact that they're not making a lot of money on this development. And they could be building market rate condos there. They could be developing this at a significantly larger scale. And they wouldn't have to ask for the pilot if they didn't want to. I don't think that the developer is a problem. I don't know what to do about 7.75% interest rates that they have to borrow this money at in order to do this project. But that's the reality of the world that we're living in. And we do need all kinds of housing of all income levels. And we've spent a lot of, we've forgiven a lot of taxes on very low income housing in this community. We haven't looked at a lot of going rate income levels in this 80 to 100% AMI. I hear the concerns of the neighborhood in regard to just the increased density and the volume of traffic and people. I hope that some of those issues can get worked out by doing this development and readdressing the flow of traffic through there. It's a tough decision to make tonight.
Okay, everybody's weighed in unless Lance wants to really quick. But you don't have to. You're good. Okay,
May I ask a question of the developer?
you can ask one more question.
Are these the modular units that are built downstate? Is this the SOX boxes?
Yeah, they're just like the
Is
ones
that-
that are on Front Street.
Right,
Yep, like the Loop.
All right, well then with that, I'm going to call the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Treadwell?
Yes.
Commissioner Anderson?
No.
Mayor Pro Tem Ness?
Yes.
Commissioner Shaw?
I know.
Yes.
Commissioner Bomer?
Yes.
Commissioner Funk?
Yes.
Mayor?
No, but it passes. So, all right. Now moving on to our rezoning of our Traverse City Code of Ordinances.
Take a few minutes.
Sure, we'll take a quick break. We'll be back in 5 minutes. We'll be back at 9:30 for those watching that clock up there. You have 4 minutes, those who wander. Mhm.
Like, when you talk to the people, like these guys that are financing this project, like that debt service.
Including our
like,
city
what
manager, I
they
don't know
buy
why.
it at, and then what they
I
can
don't
rent
know.
it for and have cash flow is becoming a huge problem.
If that's ever a case, just be patient. Yeah. It's okay. Yeah, I know. All right, we're going to call the meeting back to order. Yep. Okay. We're now on to our next item, which is our Traverse City Code of Ordinances rezoning, and I will have Benjamin kick this one off.
Yes, you have a memo in your packet from our acting planning director, Leslie Sichterman, who's here, outlining the planning commission's recommendation that 1026, 1028, and 1040 East Front Street be rezoned from HR, which is the Hotel Resort District, to C3 Community Center District. The planning commission ultimately recommended approval. It was not unanimous, but the ultimate recommendation from the planning commission was approval.
Okay.
That's all they've got for now.
Okay, do we have any questions on this item to start? Or a motion?
I'll make the motion. That amendments to the Traverse City Code of Ordinances, which would rezone 1026, 1028, and 1040 East Front Street from HR, Hotel Resort District, to C3, Community Center District, as recommended by the City Planning Commission, be introduced and scheduled for possible enactment on June 29th, 2026.
Second.
Thank you. Commissioners Shaw and Bomer.
Oh, excuse me, that motion should be, sorry, I just put a snack. My blood sugar was getting low. July 6th, 2026 should be the possible enactment date.
Well, that doesn't say that.
I know.
I know.
We read it exactly as written.
Is that acceptable to both
Yeah, that's
you,
fine.
both
Yes.
commissioners? Great.
So
Okay.
we don't have to have a meeting on the 29th?
I'm not going to be at a meeting on the 29th. I don't know about you guys.
Oh, yeah, that would be true.
So, all right. So, any discussion on this item? Go ahead, Heather.
Yeah, I watched the Planning Commission, I think there were a couple meetings about this. And on the June 2nd meeting, Leslie said, the master plan is great for long-term planning, not so great for short-term, and this is one of those cases. Yes, I agree. Mitch did not approve of this rezone because he said it smelled like spot zoning. But the rezone does extend the current C3 westward, so at least it's not isolating itself in the middle of HR. So I'm going for it.
Okay. Jackie?
If you read the descriptions between the C3 and the HR zones, the HR zone is positioned toward visitors, lodging and restaurants and tourism. The C3 zone tends to be more serving the local community, and for me, that was an important part of the decision factor, so thought I would mention that.
Great. Mitch?
Yes, as Commissioner Shaw pointed out, I was the lone no vote. I do think that redevelopment in this area is necessary and is something that will happen long-term. A new zoning classification could be a part of that, but I don't think that C3 is necessarily the right pick. As we are going through our zoning code rewrite, one of the things that we've already pulled out is a closer scrutiny towards auto-centric uses. That has been one of the main land use uses for C3 zoning throughout the city, especially along, say, Garfield, south of 8th Street. I am not sure that that meets what we would like to see in this area. And also, yes, we can look at our future land use map as a guide, but we do end up in an area where these three parcels straddle two classifications. So it can be difficult to say unequivocally what the classification should be and where that line gets drawn. To that point, you do have Hotel Resort to the west with two parcels that operate as such. And you do have property to the east that had been a drive-through restaurant and a drive-through coffee shop, which is RC3 zoning. But you've got vacant land and you've got a single-family house in between that is really an odd parcel out, and I'm afraid that we are not looking holistically and towards the future enough for what this area, in fact, this whole corridor, could be and should be for the future.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions from this? Seeing none, any public comment on this item? Seeing none, I'll bring it back. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Treadwell?
No.
Commissioner Anderson?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Ness?
Yes.
Commissioner Shaw?
Yes.
Commissioner Bomer?
Yes.
Commissioner Funk?
Yes.
Mayor?
Yes. Motion passes. Okay, and so our next item is consideration of adopting a resolution regarding the zoning amendments for Bay Street. This was brought forward by myself, working with the Mayor Pro Tem Ness and our city attorney. When we did pass the master plan for zoning, or planning, you know, there was comments on this. We have had further conversations with the neighborhood. As a whole, the plan had a lot of good structural things, but this was one that, as time has gone on, we've decided to revisit, and this would essentially put a freeze on any changing to the Bay Street, which is, even though it was changed for the potential zoning, not changed from R1B. This would preserve it as R1B until the next master plan process really begins. We could say it could go through more, but that'll be another commission at that time. The new master plan process is supposed to start as this commission would be having another election. So in theory, it will put a hold on it, period. The next commission could lift it, but this will be us, if we pass this, resolving that basically until the next plan starts. We would not change the zoning there. So that's where we were, the approach to this. It's pretty well summarized here. So I just don't know or I guess I would open up, does anybody have any questions, or does anybody want to make a motion? Question? Heather?
No, motion.
Okay, go ahead.
Happily, ecstatically, I move that the resolution regarding zoning amendments for Bay Street be adopted. This was highly, we need a second.
Second.
Support.
Okay,
This
I'll let
was
Laura get it.
highly recommended by David Burrell of Future IQ during our at the end, really, of our strategic planning initiative, and as a way to mend fences, some broken fences between the community and the commissions, and to demonstrate through action that we do listen, that we are listening to the community. So thank you very much, Mayor Pro Tem, and Commissioner Anderson for making this happen.
Yep. And Mitch, and then Lance.
Yes, as I have before, when this has come up, I'll take full ownership of this. I not only serve as a city commissioner and a planning commissioner, but I was the chair of the master plan leadership team. I had specifically, when we were refining our future land use map, wanted consistency. And we have, in many parts of the city, a high traffic corridor or commercial development near to residential development in our historic neighborhoods. This fits the pattern that we see throughout our city, and that is what, in the planning framework that we were using, the transitional designation means. I felt it was prudent then. I feel it's prudent now. Rather, I feel that this resolution is improper. We have a way of amending our future land use map or even our whole master plan. That has to go through the Planning Commission. This did not. When the city of Harbor Springs passed some zoning amendments similar to what we did in 2023, that garnered pushback from the public. The public then voted on that and voted to repeal that. That follows the process. When the city of Boyne City had issues with their master plan and ended up terminating their contractor agreement. They revisited it, brought the process in-house, started with a draft, but then continued the public process and reached a conclusion that still passed their master plan. Whitewater Township also had some issues and ended up voting down their master plan. But again, it was following the protocol that they had before them. Earlier this year, when Banks Township in Antrim County had a proposal to entirely eliminate zoning, it went through the process, through the Planning Commission and the Township Board. Ultimately, that failed. But all those cases followed the clear written process. I'm not saying that any of those 4 cases were the right decision. In fact, all 4 cases have made the professional planning community and various contractors much less willing to work with them. And it has made it difficult for those communities to then get the professional services that they need for planning for specific consultation on zoning matters. But it was the choice of those communities, and they followed the protocols. Additionally, I find this resolution to be unfair, since it is singling out only one section of transitional zoning in our future land use map along a few blocks of one corridor. Yes, we have heard significant pushback from neighbors in that area, but it is not following a fair standard to change one transitional area without looking at other ones. In fact, through the whole process of this was running concurrently the redesign of M72 with MDOT, and we were hearing loud and clear about the concerns about the traffic and the noise along that high capacity corridor, specifically concerns with moving the south lanes slightly closer to the residential neighborhoods. If there are concerns about moving traffic 5 feet closer, then why should there not be concerns about moving residential development 50 feet north of where it currently stands? Along Bay Street has, for decades, far before our current zoning code, been some residential, but primarily commercial. It had originally been built as a row of shops, storefronts, warehouses, before Grandview Parkway came in and stripped the warehouses and shops that fronted directly to the docks away. Many of those commercial buildings still exist. There are still 2 churches. There's still a dentist office. There's the Beard Building. These are not single-family houses. These are not matching the built environment or the standards that R1B zoning requires. And to that end, I see this resolution as potentially illegal by removing recourse that those developers, those property owners of commercial property along Bay Street would have. If they want to do a renovation, if they want to do a change of use that might require not a whole-scale rezoning, but a variance through the BZA. Currently, even though their property is zoned R1B, the fact that it is transitional in our future land use map provides some more flexibility. And it means that if the Baird Building wanted to convert what had been originally a drive-through and is now blocked off into additional square footage of a small office, they could get a variance for that, potentially. They could get financing for that, potentially, because we have flexibility in our zoning code. Our future land use map has identified that as transitional, not as solely single-family housing. I see this as rather than meeting our strategic plan and the pillars of that as something that could actually destroy the neighborhood character that exists, that has existed for the nearly a century that some of those commercial buildings have stood there. If we follow the strict language of our zoning code and the R1B classification, it would require that the Baird building, for example, be converted to a single-family house. I'm not sure that is what the residents want. I have not heard that presented as the objective from a single resident of the Slabtown neighborhood. We've got multiple emails, phone calls, personal people reaching out to us as commissioners from the start of the master plan process. But I haven't heard anything about them wanting more houses where commercial property exists and that being their ultimate goal. They might want, or they might not want a large-scale hotel, but that's not what exists there. That's not what has ever existed there. To preserve the neighborhood character that exists means embracing a mix of residential and commercial, and we need to have zoning policies that reflect that.
Thank you, Mitch. I will recognize Lance, who was next, but I did want to point out that this was not submitted without having had our attorney look at it. So though we can be sued about anything, I did want to make it clear that this was not created in a vacuum without legal input. Lance, go ahead.
Just a couple concerns. I just want to start by acknowledging the neighborhood group that put together a petition. I love that. I think that we all said that we would listen to it, but I'm concerned with the resolution, some of the language in it. Aside from being just like, now we're going to go down the role of the squeaky wheel gets the grease for every neighborhood in the city with this. So my two concerns are this. It's missing C1, just says R1B and open space. And last time I checked, the neighborhood president lives in the side of the neighborhood that has the C1 properties in it. So I'm pretty sure that's still Slabtown neighborhood. So it's kind of missing all of that between Oak Street and Division Street zoning within the resolution. The second is this seems to be handcuffing the future commission. And I don't want to handcuff a future commission who's not been elected, who we don't even know who they might be. It might be, who knows? It could be 3 different commissioners. I don't think that it's appropriate for us to create a resolution that doesn't have a timeline. For example, this resolution doesn't have a timeline. It just states that maybe in the next 18 to 24 months is anticipated to begin for the master plan. I'd be more comfortable if it said remove the next master plan and put up until the next commission, right there. So those are my 2 main concerns over this. And I guess my third concern is that we're just we're going down a slippery slope of using resolutions to handcuff ourselves and to address Mitch's concerns of potentially needing to make changes and then handcuffing other decision-making boards.
Just wanted to respectfully point out that any city commission, this one or a future, could rescind this resolution at any time.
Yeah, it would just take a vote, right? So it would take a whole resolution to rescind the resolution, and we're just adding extra bureaucratic work, in my opinion.
This ends at the adoption of the next master plan. If you, that's how I read it. Is that, anybody else read it like that?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Which could be in 24 months or it could be in 5 years.
Well,
Which I think is the point of the resolution, is that it prevents anything from changing in that area until the master plan can address it the next time it's reviewed.
So the review of the master plan starts in the next 18 to 24 months. And Lauren, if you want to address.
Sure. So the Planning Enabling Act requires the master plan to be reviewed every 5 years. And given the time that the last one was adopted, we'll be gearing up to start that process within the next 18 to 24 months. That's why that time span is in there. And that's that 5-year rhythm that the master plan is on.
Laura?
And, I will say,
Keep going,
just,
yeah.
sorry,
No, no.
the language in here says adoption of the next master plan, not review of the next master plan. So those are two very different things.
Laura, you haven't spoken, and then Mitch, you will be after that.
Couple things. Lance's comment, I just want to make sure we're all clear. We're not missing the C1. The Bay Street Transitional Neighborhood designation is east or west of Division, ending at the church on Ramsdale. So it's not the whole Slabtown neighborhood. What was applied in that master plan's future land use is just the portion of Bay Street that is west of Division. So there are no, it's only R1B and open space. So just to be clear on that. As I've been thinking about this issue for a while, and I walk down Bay Street every day. For me, it comes down to one simple principle, and that's if we ask residents for their input, which we did during the master plan process, invited them to open houses and surveys and all sorts of public input vehicles, then we have an obligation to listen to what they say. And in the Slabtown neighborhood, there was no support for this Bay Street designation. In fact, there was a petition, 329 people signed that petition. There was a recent vote of the Slabtown Neighborhood Association. They have consistently and repeatedly and respectfully told us that they don't want these changes on Bay Street. I agree with Commissioner Treadwell. Process does matter. But in this case, when hundreds of residents have provided that level of feedback through listening sessions and public meetings and open houses and petitions and emails and formal action, that is process. And I think what it's led to, as Commissioner Shaw indicated, is an erosion of trust between our local government and our residents. And that's the issue for me. And so what I'm hoping out of this resolution is that during this period, we can re-engage the neighborhood in a process, rebuild some trust, and move forward together with a designation that makes sense for future land use as well as for the neighborhood. That's my hope. It's to rebuild that trust and to push the reset button, because it's a very, very small street from west of Division to the church, which recently sold. There's very limited opportunity for change along that street in this window.
Mitch, you had your hand up, and then Lance, you had your hand.
Yes, we did get feedback from people in the Slabtown neighborhood. None of them actually live on Bay Street. We also didn't get any feedback from anyone on Arbutus Court, on Fern Street, on Woodmere, on Cass, on Veterans. All are zoned transitional. If we are being fair in our looking at what future land use should be, we should have also heard from them. Why should a few residents in one part of town be able to change something that is, from my perspective, not substantially different in its character than those other areas?
Lance, you had your hand up
Matter
again.
of fairness.
Yeah, and Laura, I appreciate you calling out that section of Bay Street. However, it's not how it's written in this resolution. If you read, it's whereas Bay Street, which is Bay Street, is currently zoned R1B and OS. If you say Bay Street, there is C1 on Bay Street, and so slippery slope legally. And whereas the 2024 master plan identifies Bay Street, i.e. all of Bay Street, as a transitional neighborhood in the future land use framework. So you got to be specific if you're going to make
Okay,
right. So
I'm okay if we make
Could we amend that to say Bay Street where zoned?
We can say Bay Street west of Division.
Yeah.
Because that's the transition.
I get that.
Area. Yep.
And then my other concern is the timeline. The future commission could literally just never adopt another master plan, And I feel like we're just we're dictating what their abilities are.
To be clear, they don't get to vote on the next master plan unless they change the rules.
And we don't even get to vote on a master plan, so we don't get to
Unless we
adopt a
change the
master
rules.
plan
Yep.
unless we change the rules.
Mitch, I will call on you in a minute, but I did want to make one brief point as we're having this conversation, since everybody has had a chance to talk that's raised their hands. And sorry, Jack, you were before Mitch, so I wrote it down and then I didn't glance before I said that. But what I will say as someone who was up here deliberating at the time, when we were having those discussions, is both myself and I will even say my Stanley, who lives in the neighborhood, said, I am going to be in favor of this master plan, but I will never vote to change that zoning. And so the master plan itself went through the process. It was a long process. I will say by the time I got to the city commission, I don't think I felt like we couldn't do anything, but once you get a master plan to this point, sending it back now takes months and months and months again. And we had been doing a mobility study in the same vein as that, and there were a lot of other things going on with the city at the time. So there was even expressed opinions by the commission of that time that you can do this, but we're not going to, there's certain of us that won't vote for this. And so I look at this as giving some clarity to something that I don't know that there's been the appetite to pursue, and to the fairness of developers, and to Mitch's point, the person who might want to buy the Bayard property and build a giant house, this is clarifying where people stand for the moment. And I think that putting someone into the process of thinking that this could be changed to transitional zoning when the appetite may or may not be there is also unfair. So that was my thought of clarifying this for now until the next process. Doesn't mean everybody has to agree with it. It doesn't mean that that's where everybody else is at, but that was my thought when putting this together and bringing this forward. So that's where I just wanted to add some more 2 cents in there. Jackie and then Mitch.
I am going to be supporting this. I feel it's important to respect the feedback that we have received, that we requested it, we received it in spades, hundreds of people, and lots of participation and quite a unified voice. I see this action as a pause. I see it as an opportunity for everyone to take a deep breath, to think carefully about this particular area and how it fits into the bigger picture. I think an important thing that has also happened since the master plan that assigned that as a transitional neighborhood is that we now have a strategic plan also. And we have lots of clarity citywide around the vision and values for our community that we didn't have when the current master plan was underway. And I know there are concerns and tensions about how do those align, and it's a big conversation. That alone, I think, is a good rationale for a pause. But I would even, and I will be trying to figure out whether it's possible, I would encourage consideration of going into a new master plan cycle sooner rather than later. The law mentions this 5-year interval, but doesn't say it can't be shorter. And with the understandings that we've gained from the strategic plan, I think we might look at our next master plan in a much different lens, and we might come out in a very different place. So I'm going to be trying to figure out how to address that. And there was one other point I was going to make regarding the restoration of the City Commission's ability to approve or disapprove a master plan. I think it's very important in terms of accountability that a document that critical is voted up or down by elected officials, not appointed officials. I think it's our duty to our community to take that responsibility, and I'll be trying to make that happen. So thank you.
Yep, Mitch.
Yes. With the amended language of Bay Street only west of Division, that still includes C1 zoning. At the end of Bay Street, at the county line, is a 6-story office building zoned C1. Technically, that's bigger than we allow in C1, but that is the built environment. And I don't understand, nobody has explained to me what is wrong with Bay Street as it currently is. If we are saying it should be R1B zoning with all single-family houses, somebody could make that argument, but that hasn't been made to me. Somebody could make the argument that even small commercial developments along this corridor fundamentally impact the neighborhood in a negative way. They could say that Baird or the window business has generated too much traffic, has brought people in that they don't want, has made it noisier, has led to increased commercial deliveries. All those are arguments that could be made. Nobody has made any of those. Nobody has made any argument that I have heard about what is wrong with the buildings that are there, with the land uses that have been there for a century. What are we trying to fix?
Thank you, Mitch. I have a question really quickly for Lauren. As was raised in Mitch's point here, there's one unit or one property that is C1. During this time, if someone bought it and wanted to tear it down and build single family, would that be what we'd be dealing with? It wouldn't fundamentally change anything, correct?
No, the transition zone that's identified on the future land use map only goes to the church.
Okay.
It doesn't go further than that, so it doesn't have anything to do with the office building.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify that. Okay, anybody we haven't heard from want a final thought? Seeing none. Now we'll open up for public comment, if anybody would like to make public comment.
Good evening. I'm Keith Huggett, 122 North Elmwood Avenue, resident of Traverse City. It's interesting as I sit here and listen to you debate and work back and forth between the issues that you're faced and the terrible decisions that you have to make and how it impacts all the people's lives that it touches. It's very daunting, but we can't be buried in the past. The decisions that were made previous, if they were not made correctly, if they did not involve the people that are impacted by those decisions, then you can't rely on those as an argument for continuing down the same path. I truly believe that this resolution will help mend fences. I also believe that it is a good way to get to the next master plan, where decisions can be made to include or not include Bay Street as a transitional. Now, when you say transitional to me, I don't think of it as in terms of what I'm hearing with the type of zoning. I see the street, I see the bay, I see what's there, and I want to preserve what's there. And if you open it up to transitional, you're going to have the opportunity to have commercial buildings put along there, and you're just fencing in that neighborhood with commercial zones all around it. And just because it's not the same as 8th Street or Garfield or Veterans, that's the uniqueness of Traverse City. That is what makes us different than every other place. If we want people to come here to visit, we have to be different than every other place. We can't have a CVS on every street corner. We can't have a McDonald's on every street corner. We need to have those things that draw people to our community that they want to see. They want to see what they have lost, which is if you look at their zoning, you look at their way of life, it's what we're going towards. So I'm in total support of this resolution. I hope the board will look at it favorably. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment at this time?
Doug Kimball, 523 North Spruce Street. To say that you haven't heard any arguments about what is going on Bay Street tells me that you haven't been listening. We started this in 2023 with listening sessions, and we continued that into 2024 with, as was said, attending meetings, attending open houses, emails, speeches here, speeches at the planning commissions. So if you think that you haven't heard an argument, you haven't been listening, because we have argued for this. The number one goal of the planning commission, as they stated it, was neighborhood preservation. Transforming a neighborhood is not preservation, that's change. Change and preservation are two different things. You should understand that. Not only that, it's the plan was written by the citizenry. Again, not listening, because we started in 2023 saying, you know, we don't want this. Based on neighborhood input. These are all quotes, and I could get them for you because I have them. These are all quotes from the Planning Commission. Based on neighborhood input. Our neighborhood input was, we don't want to see this become commercialized and multifamily. We know what we have on Bay Street. We know there are a couple of non-conforming businesses. That doesn't mean that we want more. We want it to remain like it is. That's called preservation. As far as the Parkway goes, that's a totally illogical argument that making Bay Street a transitional neighborhood will somehow cure any problems of noise and traffic. It will put more traffic on there. I don't know how that can be misunderstood. So for all these reasons, I would like you to pass the resolution as stated. There is more, just a second. Well, I guess I'll end it there. Thank you.
Thank you, Doug. Any other public comment?
Good evening, Paul Wilkins, 610 North Madison Street. Answer to somebody's statement, Bill Manning lives on Bay Street and did participate in a number of these listening sessions. He's been to planning meetings, he's spoken up, and unfortunately he left earlier tonight, but he's been here. He is a resident on Bay Street. He objects to it. Thank you, Mayor Shamaro and Mayor Pro Tem Ness for putting this very important item on the agenda. It's important that the elected body listens to its taxpayers and its residents while representing the interests of its constituents and building trust with its citizens. I'm a Slab Town resident. I support the resolution regarding the zoning amendments. I signed the petition. I'm one of the 300. I'm also one of the people that walked door to door and circulated the petition. That's the passion I have for this particular topic. The City's Commission's mission is to guide the preservation and the development of Traverse City through the citizen input and staff expertise. It's important to note that the mission statement places preservation before development, recognizing the importance of protecting neighborhood character, community, quality of life. This resolution is consistent with two city strategic pillars. Proactively managing urban design, which is protecting local character and community feel. The second pillar, strengthening placemaking and neighborhood character, protecting the character of downtown neighborhoods. I respectfully encourage you to vote in support of this resolution. Thank you for your time
You, Paul.
and your service.
Thank you, Paul. Any other public comment on this item? Okay, seeing none, I'll bring it back to the commission. Mitch?
Again, I have not heard anyone say what is wrong with trend window design. Did somebody make the wrong decision to locate that business there? Perhaps. Did somebody make the wrong decision to have a commercial business there before that and have a parcel that was used for commercial activity for nearly a century? Perhaps. But I haven't heard anybody say that. Nobody has articulated what is wrong with trend window design on Bay Street. In fact, all I can hear is people want the character of the neighborhood preserved as it is. That includes trend window design as part of that neighborhood character. In fact, when a PUD proposal for the church at the north end of Bay Street came before the Planning Commission, it was proposed with a residential density that was lower than would be allowed under R1B, that had less square footage than would be allowed for a single-family house in R1B on that lot. And still, the residents objected. I did not get a clear picture of what they wanted. If they want R1B there, then a standard that meets that, then a development plan that meets that standard or is well below it should be acceptable. But I did not hear clearly what they wanted instead, nor did I hear what should be there rather than what is there now. If people want what is there now, then that means that we have to have some flexibility in our zoning code. We have to have a transition. Words mean things.
I'm going to call the vote, unless there are objections. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Yes.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Treadwell?
No.
Commissioner Anderson?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Ness?
Yes.
Commissioner Shaw?
Yes.
Commissioner Bomer?
No.
Commissioner Funk?
Yes.
And Mayor.
Yes, resolution passes. And thank you for that, for your public comment and everybody who's stuck in with us. And last and final item is, it's that time of year again for our staff reviews. So we have a motion to go into closed session to discuss with our remaining employee for right now, Benjamin, to discuss his review. Can I get a motion?
I move that we go into closed session for the, is there a?
Immediately following the public comment portion of the agenda to consider the periodic personnel evaluation of a city manager, Benjamin Marantet, as requested by the city manager and is authorized by MCL 15.268 sub A.
So moved.
Second.
All right. We don't have.
Roll call.
Oh, yeah,
vote.
that's just, I almost remembered.
Commissioner
Okay, roll call,
Tread-
please.
Sorry. Commissioner Treadwell?
Yes.
Commissioner Anderson?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Ness?
Yes.
Commissioner Shaw?
Yes.
Commissioner Bomer?
Yes.
Commissioner Funk?
Yes.
Mayor.
Yes. Okay, so we will move into closed session. No action is anticipated at the end of this, so just for those of you watching at home, you don't have to hang out for it. No appointments. Are there any reports from anybody from their boards at
I
this
have
hour?
reports, but I'm going to save them for later.
Thank you. You are very much appreciated tonight, Commissioner Shaw. All right, so with that, we have our final public comment. If anybody would like to make public comment on anything under the sun, please feel free.
Justin Reed, 630 Cottage Drive, Permit 1B, city resident. I know that tomorrow they're going to have the Complete Streets Advisory Committee meeting for tomorrow morning. One thing that I did see on this is the discussion with Progressive Company's traffic engineer regarding Delmar and Grandview pedestrian crossing. My thing is there's more important discussions than that portion of road. First of all, it's MDOT, and I don't see what other things you can do with that section. I mean, we got a signal light right there on Front and Grandview, and then you have a less than half a mile down, you have another signal. So, I think that maybe focusing on more of the aspects of the intersections in downtown versus the MDOT truck line. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other public comment for this evening? Okay, seeing none, we are going into recess for our closed session, and then we will come back, and again, no action is anticipated at that time, so we will just adjourn the meeting. Gonna be in your office.
I know.
Okay. Just have to be standing, we don't have to be seated.
Did we adjourn?
No, because we didn't have a quorum, now we do. All right, meeting adjourned.
Meeting adjourned. Somebody left a cup.
Heather
Nice
Shaw.
little Yeti.
That's Heather's.
Oh, okay, nice little
Should we take
Yeti
it to her, or
cup.
do you think she remembers it's here? See ya, have a good night.
Heather.
That, she was bringing your card, because we were like, did she remember?
I remember. All right, well, good night.
Yeah, great job.